Here we are, waiting in front of the church, and it's way past the 5-minute time frame that Natalia gave us. Nobody's here. We don't see them. Should I stay? Should I leave? You know, what do we do? Do we just wait? Maybe they decided not to go tonight. Who's that? Is that their van? And they parked in a handicap.
Is that her?
Oh my God, is that her?
She's right there.
Oh my God, really? Oh God,
yeah.
There she is. Oh my God. We are so excited because we're like, we didn't miss her. She was just late. Okay, maybe this will come to fruition. I hope that she saw me, but did she know that's us, or did she think this is a random person? Here we go. Oh, come on, Natalia. Oh, there she is. There she is. There she is. She's confused. Can I help her? Gotta do this quick. Hi, Natalia.
This is our driver. My mom's there.
Hi.
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 My mom is not know-it-all right now. Freaking out. You okay? No. It's okay.
I know. It's just really hard. I know. You need help? Okay. Oh my God, I'm so happy to see you. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I love you. I love you. I love you.
Oh my God. I'm hyperventilating right now. My dad is gonna snap.
Oh my God, this has been so long.
I can't believe I did this.
You did it, girl.
My dad is gonna flip. Oh my God. My mom is probably having a panic attack right now. I don't wanna break her heart.
Want to call Neil?
Yes.
Here, use Mac's phone.
Hey, babe.
Oh, yeah.
Hi. I am so thankful you found me. I love you so much.
Dude, Neil, you've been pivotal for it. Dude.
You are amazing.
Yeah. Neil, this one never
Now,
happened.
when are you coming out here?
Maybe a month.
I mean,
Yes, my boo.
I definitely think that Neil is absolutely pivotal in helping her free her mind a little bit. And he'll help Natalia be her true self.
All right, we'll let you go. I love you.
Love you.
I need to text Mom. I said, Mom, I'm sorry, but I left. I'm with the deposit. I can't handle being cut off from the world like that. I don't want to hurt you, but I need to do this. I love you so much. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I am surprised that Natalia is sending loving texts to Cynthia. You know, I'm thinking she's gonna be grateful and relieved that she had the opportunity to escape these horrible people. Instead, she's saying, I love you. I'm just so confused.
She's trying to call. She said, call me, please. I'm not answering. God.
Is she texting a lot? I look over and I see these text messages. Cynthia asks, are you safe? And then she asks, well, what about your Social Security? Am I still gonna be your payee? If my daughter felt the need to just disappear from her church, you know, I would be asking like a lot of other questions. Then am I gonna still be receiving your money? But then Natalia texted back, I still want you to be my payee. The Manses had taken all of her savings, but I at least figured she would have her Social Security to live on. And then here we are sitting in the car and I'm watching her just give away all her Social Security money to the Manses. It's not cheap to be disabled. We need to hire people to clean our house. We need to hire people to help us do everything, even go on vacation. I mean, how is she gonna live? She needs that money to live. Now we're supposed to pay for everything. This is just absolutely insane.
As soon as Cynthia hears that Natalia's okay, she's like, Are we still getting your money? I get that this is a major blow to the DePauls. But keep in mind, Natalia has been giving Cynthia and Antoine all of her money for the past decade. She doesn't know any better. They have been knocking her over like a bank since she was a child.
And whose name is that check in when it comes?
Mine.
Do you sign that check?
Yes, and then we go cash it.
Who's we?
Me and my mom, because she's my payee.
Okay. So is it monthly? Every month, $700 comes. You guys go and buy all clothes with that $700?
Sometimes stuff like we order pizza or something like that.
Any of that money go into an account for you?
I don't got a savings account yet.
Okay. Do you have to pay anything else?
Some of my check goes to the rent,
Okay.
which I'm okay with that because she's my payee.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one would go to the church for tithes and offerings. And
How much goes to tithes and offerings?
10%.
And who does that money go to?
To the church.
Which is really Antoine?
Yes, it goes straight to the church for sound equipment, stuff like that.
Now look, this FBI interview with Natalia from 2014 reveals a lot. Based upon what we know right now in our investigation, there's no other source of income for Cynthia and Antoine Mans than what they get from fostering children, and a lot of children over the years. Back in 2014, Natalia was receiving roughly $700 per month in government benefits. The amount has gone up since then. And through the years, the Manses have had around 8 to 10 kids in their care, so they could be bringing in nearly $100,000 a year. But what really shocks me is the video shows how young and vulnerable Natalia was when she signed over all her money to Cynthia and Antoine. To me, this is predatory because Natalia is too young to even understand that this is her money that is meant for her needs, not Cynthia and Antoine's.
Oh my God, Cynthia will not stop calling. I'm worried. I don't know what Cynthia and Antoine are capable of. What if they get upset and angry and come after us? Is Antoine coming to my door?
I think you have your own, hotel room. I don't really want to be alone right now.
I don't want to do this tonight. I am exhausted, but Cynthia has made it impossible to put it off. I love Natalia, and I'm not letting the Manses use her anymore. This free pony ride is done.
Hello?
Oh, you sneakily took my daughter.
Cynthia didn't sneakily. She begged me to come get her.
That's okay.
She begged me. It was days and days of communication that she needed to leave.
And I just want to say this without interrupting because this is important to me as a mother. To the nurturer of Natalia Grace Renee Mans. That is my baby. I may not have carried her and delivered her, but that is my baby. I seriously pray that nobody ever does a thing like this to you, Nicole.
Why did you take her phone when she's a 20-year-old talking to somebody in the UK? What's wrong with that?
That's none of your business.
Why have you never changed her payee to herself?
That's none of your business.
Why have you never gotten her surgery?
Shut up!
I hope you're not trying to say that as if we're preventing her from being fixed or anything.
Yes, that's not it at all.
Actually,
I am. Do not. My parents have done stuff for me. Devil lady. Don't say that. And now I rebuke you in Jesus' name. I want to. No, I don't want to hear another word from your filthy mouth. Of course you don't.
I love you, Natalia.
No, you don't. You haven't done anything for her. You have her brainwashed. It's terrible. It's sick.
the devil's a liar. That's that. I'm done.
You had your chance to adopt Natalia. It didn't go through. I'm sorry about that. That this has nothing to do with this.
What I'm trying to say to you, Cynthia,
I
is
don't care.
because
What you're trying to say, you attacked me as a mother. You told me that I did not do what I needed to do for Natalia, just like you're still doing.
She's gonna become paralyzed. You called her for 11 years and you have not gotten that taken care of. We tried.
Satan, you're not gonna get away with
Are
it.
you a doctor? Shame on you. Have a lawyer and I will do the hands off you. Bring it. I'm about to come get you.
Once I got over the hurt with Natalia, that's when I really realized the extent of her brainwashing. Everything was very hard last night. I was worried about Cynthia and Antoine coming after us. But also, Natalia did cry. You know, she was upset that she was gonna miss her family, you know, but then she would FaceTime Neil and he would say to her, it's gonna be okay, you did the right thing, you deserve to be happy, you deserve freedom. I'm not gonna give up on her because I know she'll snap out of this, I know she'll change, and we're gonna help her have a bright future. Mackenzie's making a face at me.
She's tired.
Natalia can't fly because she doesn't have an ID, so unfortunately we have to drive to New York 16 hours. But it was fun.
Howdy, partner.
She's been having a blast having freedom. Are you excited? We're almost home. Remember this house? You were little, so you might not remember.
Oh my gosh.
Hi! Yes. Hi.
How was your trip?
Good. It was, house tour. You ready? Sure. Over here. See how we have your picture here from when you were little?
That was on Christmas, wasn't it?
Yeah. Do you remember the little kitchen? It's cool. You don't have to be on a ladder or a step stool, and it's all comfortable.
It's weird.
Yeah, it is.
Like normally I would need a step stool to like reach the sink.
Yeah.
This is the bathroom. Okay. I mean, you need a stick in the bathroom when you're a little person. So you have to use a stick to do personal hygiene when you have short arms. This is the bidet, super cool. Keep your hiney and everything super clean.
Wait, what the heck is this? What in the world?
I'll show you your room. Come on in. Okay.
The DePauls, I love them. They're a very sweet family that has helped me get the chance to be able to explore. Because I felt like I was stuck. Like I didn't really know myself. I felt like I couldn't do what I wanted to do at home because of, you know, the guidelines and how my parents, you know, do things at home. It was one of the biggest and hardest decisions I ever made in my life because I never thought I would leave home. I deeply regret how I did it. I wish I told my parents because I didn't want to hurt my mom. I didn't want to hurt my dad. I just want to live a normal life.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
The DePauls treat me as part of the family. One of the many little things that shows that, you know, they missed me and they actually did care was I do remember having a Christmas stocking, but I did not know that they kept hanging it up. I didn't know that at all.
What is this? Oh no, it's stuck.
The DePauls actually got me a couple of things. It was last minute, and I'm like, y'all did not have to do that.
Aw, you were sweet.
Natalia was so happy. One of the gifts I decided to give her and Mackenzie was money. But then she told me she had Cash App, so I said, I'll give you some money towards Cash App. Natalia said it's her account. So I sent $100 to this account, but then I realized the account she gave me was for Cynthia Mans. Cynthia and Antoine, they steal from Natalia, and now I feel like they're stealing from me. This is ridiculous. So they have Natalia's money going into their bank account. They won't get her an ID to get her own bank account. All of it does not add up. I feel like it's a slap in the face. I don't understand why Natalia would give away her money to people she just literally had to flee from without baggage or anything. So now are we expected to pay for everything? Am I an ATM? Like, I don't get it. Natalia is like, can you order me Taco Bell? And I'll pay you back. And then on the other hand, she's literally saying, it's fine. You know, my parents, you can keep all that money. Like, you know, I'm poor and destitute, but it's okay. Yeah, I don't have that money to throw around, and neither does she. So why is she letting these people just keep it?
So let's recap. The DePauls have taken Natalia in, but she doesn't have any savings. She had money from Dr. Phil, from GoFundMe, and other media interviews, but she gave that money to the Manses. So, okay, she's got her SSI benefits, right? About $800 a month. No, she doesn't. She tells Cynthia that she can still be payee of her SSI benefits, which, by the way, is potentially illegal. And then within a few days, it's Christmas, and the DePauls give her a cash gift, which Natalia gives to Cynthia. So you can imagine that Nicole and Vince are asking themselves, like, who's the real Natalia? How does she really feel about the Manses? Are they still controlling her?
Being honest, like, we went through a rough moment, you know, as a family. And to be honest, that brought us together more. Like, our relationship is great. I love my parents, I love my family, I love God, and that's why I look up to my dad a lot. My dad has definitely been used in the gift of prophecy by God.
You got a lot of people right now forsaking the Lord.
My dad prophesied the Ukraine war. My dad has been used to actually pull a demon out of somebody. God used him to cast out that demon. And that's just one of the many miracles that my dad has done. And my parents are my rock. With the help of God, they brought me through a lot.
You seem so at peace, saying wonderful things about your family, but it's not that long ago that they thought of you as the enemy. Why did your parents say things like, you're the enemy?
If I comment on this, it's gonna start some drama.
I feel like he's the enemy in the house. We're done. Yeah. We're done with it.
Like, me and my parents are fine. Like, just because I'm not living with my family doesn't mean they're not my family.
For Nicole, this must be a huge shock, especially coming off of Natalia's claims to Neil that Cynthia and Antoine are financially exploiting her. What is going on with Natalia? And now she's sitting here saying the Manses are wonderful people and can do no wrong. It makes no sense.
Our relationship is great still. Like, we still have an amazing relationship. Like I never even left home.
That's a total lie. Natalia spent all this time bashing the Manses and begged me to come rescue her. So when she got here, I thought she'd just come clean about the Manses, but instead, she's insisting that they're perfect and everything's fine. Like, what the? Hey, just wanted to check in, see how you're doing.
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
Yeah?
I mean, it's rough. I miss my parents.
If you ever did go live with them, do you think that they would be, like, different?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
after this experience?
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Like,
how do you think?
they would still be there looking out for me always.
No, I mean, about, like, if you do go back, then they understand that, like, if you ever want to leave or whatever, that you can go to them and ask them. Because, like, before you didn't feel comfortable doing that, right?
Yeah,
So
and
that's
they
what I'm
understand.
saying.
They understand all that. And
Okay, good.
they know.
So now they understand?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And you can date whoever you want? I mean, I'm just wondering, because like
Yeah.
because that's,
Yeah.
I was wondering, they'll be okay with you dating someone
Yeah.
that's not okay, like not the same religion?
Yeah.
That's
No,
all.
I didn't want to bring that up.
Okay, but the thing is, Natalia, I came from another state to help you because you...
No, I understand.
Like, no, can I finish? And I got you out of from a church because you weren't comfortable talking to your parents. And now all of a sudden there's like this 180. I just want you to be honest with me.
Yeah, and everybody...
But what you're saying is like the complete opposite. My parents are fine, my parents are fine.
Yeah, they are.
But, okay, but now you're saying it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. But then before, it wasn't fine. You had to leave from a church. And don't forget, they stole your money. I believe that Natalia is 100% brainwashed. And yet, she trashes them all the time. So I don't understand. It doesn't add up. In my shoes, I'm like really confused. What is going on? What are you hiding? Why are you protecting them? I just wonder.
Can we cut?
We've acquired a few clips. People have kind of come out of the woodwork and told us some things about the man's family.
Natalia was asked if she wants to see some videos. You okay?
What video?
I feel like maybe the Manses have done something to her or something happened between her and the Manses that she doesn't want getting out. So Natalia didn't want to watch it, but she did say it's okay if Nicole and Vince watch it and they can tell me what's on the video. I definitely feel like she's very afraid of that family. What happened in that house?
People need to watch out for Cynthia Mans and Bishop Mans. They put on a persona in the public, and they're not the same people behind closed doors. Behind closed doors, they're monsters. The Mans watched my sons in 2019 to 2022. I'm a single dad trying to make it. I'm doing it all by myself, so it's stressful. I'm very exhausted. I mean, it's rough at times, but I don't know where I'd be at today if it wasn't for my son. He gives me a purpose. I was new to Crawfordsville. I needed daycare. I didn't know nobody. A few people recommended Cynthia Mans, and they seemed fine from at the beginning. I thought they were just a normal religious family. I mean, that's what I thought. But after a few months, I started seeing stuff like a red flag. Me and my son went to one of Antoine's services just one time, and that's all it took for me. It seemed so fake.
You're gonna feel the restoration power of Jesus.
I had a toothache one day. I told him, Antoine thinks he's a miracle worker. I mean, he thinks he's God. So he says, let me pray for you. And when he grabbed my head, he grabbed it hard. Started speaking in tongues.
In Jesus' name.
Do you feel better at least?
After I went to the dentist. Their so-called religious beliefs, it was all a show. They're not supposed to cuss, they cuss. They're not supposed to drink, but they drink. One time, I had Thanksgiving with them. Me and Bishop Mans were just, typical guys watching football, both of us cussing when plays don't go their way. And he was drinking, Bishop Mans was drinking boxed wine. And I've never seen boxed wine, so I have no idea what that is. They said they get them at gas stations. They're fraudsters, scammers, whatever you want to call them. They adopt and get kids for money. It's not about love. It's all about the money and what they can get. And I knew that because I was going through a custody issue with my son. And Miss Cynthia asked me if I could sign guardianship over to her. I believe Miss Cynthia wanted my kid so she could get a check off of him. She even had a piece of paper. She filled everything out. She wanted me to go to the bank with her and get it notarized, and I never would do it. I kept throwing it off. I kept changing the subject, and I never did it. And she asked me 3 different times. I don't believe they're religious. I believe that the Manns are a cult. Those kids were brainwashed. Natalia, brainwashed. I don't feel the Manns have Natalia's best interest at heart. The Manns are supposed to be this God-fearing people that love kids, and it's actually, they're abusers. There's definitely abuse and control there. My kid, he's pretty much your typical 7-year-old boy. What are you seriously dipping it in your Mountain Dew? He is. So did you like Miss Cynthia?
At first I thought she was a good person, but when she first started babysitting me, she just was bad.
And that's what we all thought at first.
My name is Robert. I have a lot of info on the man. They know who they say they are. Could you please give me a call back? My name is Robert. Thank you.
Robert Madewell is one of a number of people who have come forward to tell us disturbing stories about Cynthia and Antoine.
I was 3 and 4 years old when Cynthia babysitted me. When I tried to go to the bathroom, Miss Cynthia would tell me no, and I peed on myself.
That gets me aggravated. You're gonna set a 4-year-old boy in the corner and let him pee on himself.
I did not like being babysat by them. I would stand there and just cry and do nothing. It made me feel scared. Miss Cynthia would whip me. She would hit me on the bottom. They were very violent.
I made a phone call to Miss Cynthia. I said some pretty choice words because I had made this statement, you do not whoop him, and I made that clear from day one, you do not whoop him. I threatened her with DCS, CPS, whatever you want to call them people. You set my kid in the corner and didn't let him go to the bathroom, and he asked you to go to the bathroom. You let him go to the bathroom. You don't let him sit there and urinate all over himself. You said some choice words to me. I don't have to watch your son. Okay then, well you tell me that. I said, you could have told me that a long time ago and I could go find somebody else.
She had a belt she would whoop us with.
A belt?
Yep.
I didn't even know that one.
It was everyone. Each one at a time. And she would sometimes slap Natalia in the face.
I seen myself, Miss Cynthia, grab her son, Bubby. She grabbed him by the arm like this. Bubby has autism. Him, with his disability, I guess he kind of gets emotional real easy, and he got loud. And then Cynthia slapped Bubby open-handed in the face, right here, just like an open hand. I was told that over a 2-month period of time, they had 8 different calls to that house from DCS. And then one day, I had a confrontation with Bishop Manns at Kroger, in the Kroger parking lot. He accused me of, did I call DCS? Because he thought it was me. See, people with DCS, they can call anonymous. I did call DCS on her when my kid come home wet.
Look, we already knew that the Barnetts had called DCS. Now it appears that there were complaints from other people during that time as well. And moreover, we've heard about Antoine's abuse, and we heard Robert Madewell talk about how Antoine approached him and threatened physical violence for reporting him to Child Protective Services. We even have former neighbors, like Ed Ramey, corroborating similar acts of violence done by the Manses to their own children.
I've seen Cynthia Mann grab the one by the arm, carry her in the house. She was young. I don't know who she was. Just grabbing it by the arm, holding groceries in the other one. I don't think they're good parents.
DCS was at our house, I don't know how many times, you know, with all these sick, twisted lies that Natalia was hitting on our kids, beating on our kids, and we was allowing it, that we were all doing drugs, saying that my husband is sleeping with his daughter. It's so frustrating that people will just say anything to appease their agenda. It's ridiculous.
There are claims on social media that the Manses and Robert Madewell had a falling out because Madewell is a registered sex offender. We're hearing stories about Cynthia and Antoine using fear and intimidation and physical abuse to control people, including friends of theirs in Crawfordsville, Indiana. It sure seems like they'll go to great lengths to keep people quiet.
My name is Anna. Me and the Manses been friends for the last 13, almost 14 years. We had a double wedding, me and my ex-husband, Matt Newland, and the Manses. I lived with the Manses in 2014. I stayed there during my pregnancy, and I split with my ex-husband in 2015. We had problems. So I signed my rights over for my kids. Cynthia and Antoine are my kids' adopted parents. I would not have it any other way, but I don't like talking about it, so. Cynthia Mans is my best friend, and that will never change regardless of anything. What the Mans family had to go through throughout these last few years of people that falsely accuse them is very heartbreaking. Cynthia and Antoine Mans gave Natalia the best living situation they could. And the Mans family was the best thing that's ever happened to her. Their parenting was on point. There was never anything that I was worried about. Spankings. It wasn't nothing more than that. A tap on the butt, a tap on the hand, whatever. But nothing more. You got some parents that believe in spankings, you got some parents that don't believe in spankings. It is what it is. It's not bad. There's a difference between beating a child and spanking a child. Their strictness, their discipline was nowhere near on the verge of abuse.
Are you speaking the way you are about everything is positive because your kids are in possession?
I made the best decision for my kids that I could. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
There's a lot of stuff went on between Natalia and the men. Natalia used to get beat on all the time. They were violent toward her. Cynthia sometimes, but Antoine more so. They hit her with the belt. That would knock the girl down the dang stairs. There's some things that can land her and Antoine in jail for a long time.
Anna Newland's phone call is really disturbing. She is contradicting what she told us a year and a half ago. Why? What changed?
I'm gonna be real with y'all. Anna wants to kiss. Antoine and Cynthia are good people. Quit lying. Why Anastasia's so scared is because her kids are there. She's scared. And I seen it in my daughter. She was scared. My name is Matthew Newland. I lived with the Mans and Natalia for a long time. I have a biological child, Jakaya, and her foster parents are Cynthia and Antoine. It's not my fault that my daughter, is sitting in Cynthia's right now. It's Anna's fault to stuck them there. So anything that happens to my daughter, yeah, I'm gonna be pissed about, but I can't do nothing about. How I know about my daughter being scared, I would go to talk to her on my phone. I'd see a reflection in the corner of my eye, and I'd see Cynthia standing there over her, and she'd clam up like, oh. As thoughts started going through my head, are they gonna do the same thing that they did to Natalia? Are they gonna do it to my child?
Anna Newland backtracked, and now she's covering up the abuse she claims that she witnessed. And to me, that sounds like Cynthia and Antoine know how to silence people who know their secrets.
Natalia used to get beat on all the time.
There's a lot of craziness that went on in that house. Natalia is a real good friend of mine. I'm like a big, big brother to Natalia. And that's why I'm very highly protective of Natalia. I could just see and feel all the hurt and hatred she's been through. One day, I was outside and I heard a child screaming. I know this church is the back of my hand. So when I overheard some screaming, I knew it was in the basement. When I walked in the church, I'd slide my tennis shoes off. And I snuck downstairs quietly. And that's when I saw Antoine beating Natalia. He brutally battered her with a belt. It was just out of aggression. Natalia was shaking. Tears were rolling down her face. Sorry. Give me a moment. It's rough. She's told me that she doesn't like the Mans and she wanted out of there. I kept telling her every day when I was there, you need to get the hell up out of there. Now, don't wait. You need to go before you get killed. The real reason she waited so long. Natalia is very, very scared of Antoine and Cynthia Mans.
Were you or any of the kids ever beaten or physically abused by Cynthia or Antoine?
I don't want to talk about that.
You want to talk about that?
No.
It's so frustrating. People trying to make my mothering seem like I'm a bad mom. Is this a front? Like, me, my mothering isn't a front. I'm gonna yell at my kids if they need yelled at. I'm gonna pop that butt if they need that butt popped. I'm not a Susie homemaker, and I'm not gonna pretend I am. But what I am is Cynthia Mans. I'm a true mother. I'm never gonna walk away from my kids, no matter what.
The night was unusually silent in the small mountain town of Aspen, Colorado. October wind cut through the streets, carrying a scent of pine and damp leaves, whispering through empty alleyways and abandoned lots where shadows seemed to stretch longer than the night itself. Nobody noticed her leaving the party at the edge of town. Nobody saw her footsteps fade into the darkness. 19-year-old Megan Holloway vanished in the blink of an eye, leaving behind a half-empty glass of punch and a room full of laughter that would never feel the same. Friends remembered her smile, the way her hair caught the light when she laughed, the way she insisted she would take a shortcut home. Nobody questioned it at the time. But by dawn, that shortcut had become a trail lost to history, a ghost path that would haunt the town for years. Investigators arrived at her small apartment in a flurry of uniforms and flashing lights. The scene was ordinary, eerily untouched. Her bed neatly made, textbooks stacked on her desk, a window slightly ajar. No sign of struggle. Nothing to suggest why she had simply disappeared into the night. Police canvassed the neighborhood, knocking on doors, questioning neighbors, anyone who might have glimpsed her silhouette in the dim streetlights. Witnesses were scarce, memories hazy. Someone thought they saw a car, a dark sedan, maybe a Ford, with a dent in the rear bumper, idling near the edge of the woods where the shortcut led. Another swore they heard voices arguing, muffled but tense, as if a storm had passed through the trees. But each tip dissolved into nothing. There were no leads, no suspects, only the heavy silence of a mystery that had begun to tighten its grip around the community. The town itself seemed to shrink under the weight of her disappearance. Posters of Megan's face appeared in coffee shops, grocery stores, pinned to bulletin boards with her name printed in bold, black letters. Candlelight vigils drew crowds that murmured prayers into the night, their breath visible in the cold mountain air, forming clouds that disappeared as quickly as hope. Friends retraced her steps, wandering the winding paths and wooded trails, their hearts hammering with every crackling leaf, convinced that somewhere, just beyond the next ridge, she might be waiting alive. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and still, the cold case file grew thicker on the desk of Detective James Harrow, a man known for his relentless pursuit of truth, whose own eyes had begun to show the fatigue of sleepless nights and unanswered questions. The initial investigation uncovered little beyond the usual: fingerprints on the glass she'd left behind, DNA traces of herself, dust lifted from the carpet. But the question that haunted them most wasn't the science, it was the human element. Who had wanted her gone? Who had waited in the shadows? The detectives questioned ex-boyfriends, classmates, coworkers, even a distant cousin rumored to have argued with her over money. Each lead crumbled, evaporated like mist under the morning sun. For a while, the case felt like chasing smoke, grasping at shapes that disappeared as soon as you looked directly at them. And the town, once bustling with autumn tourists and ski enthusiasts, seemed frozen, suspended in a state of unease, every shadow a potential witness, every passerby a potential threat. Megan's friends couldn't understand it. They recounted her habits, her meticulous routines, the friends she trusted implicitly. None could imagine a scenario where she would simply walk away and never look back. Yet with every passing month, the optimism that once fueled their search dwindled. They clung to fragments: a shoe left on a trail, a voicemail she never returned, a journal entry mentioning a person she referred to only as the stranger. Each fragment was a spark, but it never ignited into clarity. The mystery deepened, entwining itself with the fabric of the town, embedding suspicion and fear into conversations over coffee, into hushed whispers behind drawn curtains. Detective Harrow pored over every detail again and again. Maps, timelines, sketches of routes she might have taken. Surveillance footage from gas stations, grainy and incomplete. Calls to phone companies, banks, hotels, anyone who might have seen a young woman with a backpack disappearing into the night. Nothing. Every potential lead seemed deliberately constructed to lead nowhere. And yet, the case refused to die. It lingered like smoke in the hallways of the police station, as though the past itself refused to relinquish its grip. Harrow's colleagues began to whisper that she had been taken by someone who knew the town intimately, someone who could move unseen, someone who could erase a person without leaving a trace. The thought chilled them to the bone, yet no evidence ever surfaced to confirm it. Months turned into years. Megan's name became shorthand for unresolved grief, the invisible wound the town carried collectively. Annual searches were organized by volunteers, hikers scouring trails with flashlights, calling her name into the dense woods. The media occasionally picked up the story, dubbing it a cold case mystery that defied explanation, sensational headlines that flared briefly before fading. Social media didn't exist yet, but in whispered conversations and letters to local newspapers, her story spread like a ghost story, chilling and mesmerizing in equal measure. Friends moved away, others married, yet the memory persisted. Every Halloween, when shadows seemed to stretch a little longer, the town remembered her. Every sudden wind through the trees, every door creaking late at night reminded them of what was missing. Then, a strange development surfaced, a series of anonymous letters, postmarked from towns hundreds of miles away, all hinting vaguely at knowledge of Megan's disappearance. They contained puzzles, cryptic messages, and fragments of information only someone closely involved could know. Police were intrigued but cautious. The letters led to dead ends, and for a time, the case seemed to circle back on itself, a relentless echo of the same unanswered questions. Friends were torn between hope and terror. Could someone be reaching out with the truth, or was it a cruel game, a reminder that the town's wounds were not yet ready to heal? Every envelope carried tension. Every word felt like a key turning in a lock that had long since rusted. The psychological toll was immense. Megan's parents aged visibly, their faces etched with lines carved by sleepless nights and hope deferred. Friends described dreams where she returned, only to vanish again. Their waking hours were filled with the echo of a life interrupted, a story left unfinished. Local businesses reported odd occurrences, phones ringing with no one on the line, footsteps in empty shops, lights flickering inexplicably. Some attributed it to grief, others whispered about something darker. The town became a character in its own right, haunted, vigilant, unable to move forward. Even those who had never known Megan personally felt the chill of the unsolved mystery pressing against their daily routines, a collective anxiety that no explanation could dissolve. Investigators occasionally stumbled upon tantalizing hints: a campsite in the forest, remnants of a fire, a backpack that might have been hers, though it was never conclusively identified. DNA tests, though primitive by today's standards, returned no matches. Rumors circulated of an old logging truck seen in the area that night, a man who moved between towns and was never caught. Each thread, no matter how promising, ended abruptly, leaving a trail of questions with no answers. Detectives like Harrow began to consider patterns, connections beyond Colorado, a theory that perhaps this was not an isolated disappearance, but part of a much larger, more sinister puzzle. The fear of the unknown became a shadow over every subsequent investigation, a reminder that even the most diligent effort could fall short against forces invisible, deliberate, and merciless. Time, relentless as it was, became both ally and enemy. Memories faded, alibis lost their clarity, potential witnesses moved away or passed on. Yet the case file never gathered dust. It remained a sentinel on Harrow's desk, a testament to the town's unresolved agony. Every year brought renewed calls from concerned citizens, every decade an opportunity for new technology to shed light on old mysteries. And still, Megan's absence was absolute, her story incomplete, a gap in the fabric of reality that refused to close. Even as part one of the investigation faded into the collective memory of the late 1990s, the town remained alert, sensitive to the slightest anomaly, the faintest whisper in the wind. It was not simply a case anymore. It was a lingering presence, a question mark that hovered over every quiet night, a chill felt in the bones of anyone who remembered. Friends and family spoke cautiously, aware that speculation could distort truth, yet unable to resist the pull of obsession, the need to piece together a puzzle that may never be solved. Every lead, no matter how improbable, was considered, debated, and ultimately catalogued, the sense of urgency undimmed by years. And so the mystery endured, an invisible line threading through the town's history, connecting everyone who had known her, everyone who had wondered, and everyone who feared the same fate. Megan Holloway's disappearance in 1997 was no longer merely a missing person case. It was an emblem of the unknown, a testament to the fragility of life, and the relentless, haunting grip of questions left unanswered. The cold case file waited patiently, silently, for a crack in the darkness, for a revelation that could shatter years of grief, suspicion, and fear. Until then, the town, the friends, the detectives, and every shadowed alleyway held their breath, caught between memory and nightmare, trapped in the quiet, haunting expectation that something, anything, might finally break the silence. Winter arrived with a sudden brutality, snowstorm after snowstorm burying the trails Megan might have walked, masking footprints, erasing evidence as though nature itself conspired to hide the truth. The town's lights glowed dimly against white blankets, but inside, the chill was not merely from the cold, it was the invisible presence of the unsolved. Detective Harrow spent nights in his office, staring at maps littered with pins and red string, each line representing a possibility, a theory, a fleeting hope. He replayed witness statements repeatedly, voice recordings looping in his mind until words blurred into echoes. One neighbor had mentioned seeing a figure slipping between trees near the old ski lift at 2 a.m. Another had heard the crunch of boots on gravel, but the timelines never matched. The fragments were disjointed, each offering tantalizing glimpses, but no resolution. The local paper ran feature stories about the ongoing mystery, each article heightening the sense of dread in the town. Headlines screamed, "Colorado teen vanishes without a trace," and "Cold case shadows Aspen community," turning curiosity into fear. Readers were drawn into speculation. Had Megan wandered into the mountains and succumbed to the elements, or was something more sinister at play? Letters poured into the police department and newspaper office alike, some from strangers claiming insight, others from distant relatives insisting the answer lay buried in old family secrets. Yet, no single claim ever produced proof, and the case file continued to swell with inconclusive reports, photographs of empty streets, and notes about fleeting sightings that led nowhere. For Megan's friends, the absence was a living, breathing force. They spoke in hushed tones about what they thought they knew, piecing together memories of that night. One remembered the way her laughter had faltered when a stranger approached the party. Another recalled her insistence on leaving alone despite offers for a ride. Arguments arose. Had someone coerced her, or had she left voluntarily? The lines between paranoia and possibility blurred. Their shared grief became an obsession. Nights spent driving the dark roads, flashlights cutting through snow and shadows, calling her name into the wind, half expecting a reply that never came. Every echo of their voices returned empty, hollow, but still, they refused to stop searching. Detective Harrow pursued every conceivable avenue. He interviewed every person Megan had interacted with in the weeks leading to her disappearance. College classmates, baristas, taxi drivers, a janitor who occasionally cleaned the party hall, everyone. He traced phone records meticulously, analyzing patterns for anomalies, every call time stamped, every duration scrutinized for significance. Yet, the data formed a perfect grid of silence, nothing unusual, nothing conclusive. He revisited old evidence with renewed eyes, dust lifted from doorknobs, fibers examined under magnification, photographs digitally enhanced. The science provided answers that led nowhere, the facts pointing to an invisible hand guiding her into the night. Rumors circulated of a man seen frequently at the edge of town, described inconsistently by witnesses, a shadowy figure who might have known the mountain trails intimately. Some believed he was a transient, passing through towns along the Rocky Mountains, while others feared he was a local with access to the intimate corners of Aspen's wooded outskirts. Surveillance footage from the gas stations revealed glimpses of a car moving slowly along the deserted highway, its headlights cutting through snow flurries like twin beacons of an unknown threat. The vehicle could not be identified, the driver remained faceless, yet the suggestion of observation sent a chill through those investigating. Time distorted memory. Each passing year layered new uncertainty over old recollections. Friends who had been close now debated what they had seen versus what they had imagined. They recounted moments from the party, a glance exchanged across a room, a shadow near the staircase, the muffled tones of a heated conversation, fragments that refused to form a coherent narrative. Their stories, repeated over and over, began to fracture under scrutiny. Discrepancies emerged, names misremembered, locations mixed, times conflated. Still, the emotional truth remained undeniable. Megan had vanished, and nobody could explain how or why. The town itself seemed to internalize the unease, its streets quieter, its woods more foreboding, every traveler wary of the invisible specter of the unresolved. New technology in the early 2000s offered faint hope. DNA analysis advanced, allowing investigators to re-examine fibers and fingerprints from the initial scene. A partial match emerged in a database far from Colorado, a man with prior offenses, living hundreds of miles away. Detective Harrow followed the lead relentlessly, dispatching officers to confront him, interview his associates, and trace his movements in 1997. Each step brought tension, a flicker of potential closure, yet ultimately, the trail ended abruptly. Records were incomplete, alibis complicated, memories unreliable. The man denied any knowledge, and nothing concrete tied him to Megan. It was tantalizing and cruel, a glimpse of resolution snatched away, leaving only the bitterness of what might have been. The community reacted in cycles of hope and despair. Local churches held renewed vigils, townsfolk left flowers and candles along the trails she might have taken. Hikers reported items they believed belonged to her, a scarf, a notebook, a single glove, but each was dismissed after analysis, ordinary objects claimed by weather, decay, or misidentification. The obsession with discovery merged with superstition. Some whispered that the forest itself had claimed her, a malevolent entity hidden in shadows. Others swore they saw her figure in moonlit clearings, fleeting glimpses that vanished when approached. Fear, memory, and grief became inseparable, each reinforcing the other, as the town existed in a state of suspended unease, unable to fully move on. Harrow's personal life began to fray under the weight of the case. Nights blurred into early mornings. Coffee became a constant companion, not merely for alertness, but as a lifeline against the oppressive stillness of unanswered questions. He dreamed of the night in fragments, a young woman walking alone, a car waiting, a shadow moving with deliberate purpose. Each dream left him drenched in cold sweat, each morning greeted with dread, yet he refused to abandon the pursuit. For him, Megan was not just a missing person. She was a testament to failure, a reminder that innocence could vanish and that evil or misfortune could operate unseen, impervious to effort, evidence, and resolve. Friends took to keeping journals, cataloging sightings, odd occurrences, and whispered rumors. Their entries grew frantic at times, reflecting sleepless nights and obsessive attention to minute details. Pages described footprints in snow, noises in abandoned buildings, fleeting figures glimpsed along mountain ridges. Each entry reinforced the feeling that the missing could still be found, yet each investigation returned empty-handed. Letters addressed to the police and media, often unsigned, arrived sporadically, some claiming to know her whereabouts, others presenting cryptic clues. Police treated them cautiously, some were hoaxes, some contained unverifiable details, but the persistence of communication suggested someone, somewhere, retained knowledge of the night Megan disappeared. The psychological toll manifested in the town's collective behavior. Locals avoided the wooded trails after dark. Parties dwindled in size and energy. Conversations at bars and diners frequently circled back to her disappearance, a shadow over social gatherings. Parents warned their children of the dangers beyond streetlights, instilling a fear that transcended reason, born from the unsettling awareness that a young woman could vanish without trace. Even law enforcement officers reported unease, an intangible presence that accompanied them as they patrolled trails and neighborhoods, eyes constantly scanning for anomalies. The cold case had transcended investigation. It had become a cultural heartbeat of anxiety, a pervasive sense of vulnerability embedded in the community psyche. Then came the reports from travelers passing through Aspen. Stories of a woman matching Megan's description, seen briefly along highways, in gas stations, in small towns along interstate routes. Some were dismissed immediately, others documented meticulously, all ultimately unverified. The pattern suggested movement, yet no conclusive evidence tied these sightings together. Friends and investigators debated whether these were hallucinations born of longing and grief, or true glimpses of someone navigating the world in secret. The ambiguity fueled obsession, each potential sighting reigniting hope, each dismissal deepening despair. Years folded over one another. Megan's absence became a permanent fixture, her name uttered with reverence and fear. Families moved, friends drifted, but the unresolved mystery remained lodged in every corner of the town. Detective Harrow, now with silver streaking his hair, revisited old evidence as though the past itself could yield secrets if scrutinized enough. He examined footprints, fiber analysis, phone records, every available technological tool. Each attempt reinforced the cruel perfection of Megan's disappearance, clean, deliberate, leaving nothing more than echoes. It was a vanishing executed with precision, a puzzle with pieces deliberately removed, forcing those left behind to confront the limits of perception, memory, and investigative power. As the 2000s progressed, Megan's story became a cautionary tale, shared in classrooms, law enforcement training, and whispered in local gatherings. Every unsolved case carried a warning. Her disappearance exemplified the chilling reality that not all mysteries conclude, that some lives are claimed by chance, malice, or forces beyond comprehension. And still, despite every technological advancement, every renewed search, every sleepless vigil, the cold case file remained open, a silent reminder of the fragility of life and the relentless persistence of questions without answers. The snow melted and returned with each passing season, trails reappearing, roads thawing, the town breathing through cycles of change. Yet the memory of Megan Holloway remained fixed, immutable, a specter in collective consciousness. Friends continued to meet quietly, sharing dreams, fragments, and fears, constructing narratives in desperate hope of closure. The forest retained its secrets, the shadows elongated with every passing hour, and the night itself seemed thicker, denser, heavier with anticipation. Detective Harrow kept the case alive with dogged persistence, knowing that one day, one small detail, one overlooked clue could fracture the years of silence, shattering the cold stillness that had gripped Aspen since that October night in 1997. Spring arrived in Aspen with a deceptive calm, the snow melting into muddy streams, revealing trails long hidden. The forest exhaled, releasing scents of wet earth and pine sap, but beneath the apparent serenity lurked the tension of unanswered questions. Detective Harrow returned to the scene of Megan's last known movements, boots sinking into soggy soil, flashlight cutting swaths of light through early morning fog. He traced every conceivable path, every shortcut she might have taken, examining tree bark, broken branches, and subtle depressions in the ground. Each mark hinted at movement, yet none led to definitive evidence. Every potential clue was a ghost, present but untouchable, tantalizingly close and impossibly distant. The community remained restless. New reports trickled in, residents recalling strange occurrences that they had dismissed in 1997. A hiker remembered a figure in a hooded jacket darting across a trail, moving unnaturally fast, vanishing into the woods without sound. A shopkeeper described a woman matching Megan's description buying a soda, but when they glanced back, she was gone, leaving no record, no receipt, no indication she had been there at all. Each story reignited speculation, feeding the town's obsession. Friends of Megan pored over these accounts, comparing memories, creating timelines that frequently contradicted one another, yet the persistence of the sightings was undeniable. Hope flickered, yet each flicker carried the weight of inevitable disappointment. Harrow's investigation began exploring the possibility of an outsider, someone unfamiliar with the town but patient, calculating, willing to wait in shadows. He compiled data on itinerant workers, traveling salesmen, transient populations passing through Aspen in the fall of 1997. Names, vehicle registrations, motel logs, all were scrutinized with meticulous care. Yet every path led to another dead end, a blank space on the map of Megan's disappearance. There were tantalizing intersections, a man checking into a lodge the night she vanished, a vehicle rented in a neighboring state, fingerprints that could not be identified, but no connection solidified. The case had morphed into a web of near-hits, a series of almosts, frustrating in their tantalizing incompleteness. Meanwhile, Megan's friends took matters into their own hands. They organized searches along trails that Harrow could not patrol constantly, venturing into thick woods, calling her name, leaving behind notes, hoping the sound of their voices might reach her if she was still alive. Some nights ended in panic as they glimpsed fleeting shapes among the trees, shadows too deliberate to be natural. Each sighting sent their hearts hammering, adrenaline spiking, only to return home exhausted, empty-handed, haunted by the impossibility of reconciling what they thought they saw with what they could prove. Sleep became elusive, dreams blending memory and imagination, a looping montage of her last known moments, her laugh, her glance, the silhouette disappearing into darkness. The media caught wind of renewed activity, broadcasting features on Megan Holloway, the unsolved mystery of Aspen. Reporters interviewed family and friends, uncovering long-forgotten fragments of information, a conversation overheard at a cafe, a minor dispute with a classmate, a mysterious phone call received days before she disappeared. Each story reignited public interest, drawing curiosity seekers and conspiracy theorists alike. Letters and emails flooded the police department and local paper with claims, theories, and supposed sightings. Some were laughable, others alarming, all feeding the sense of a case that refused to rest. It was no longer simply a missing person story, it was a narrative of obsession, fear, and unanswered questions that extended beyond Aspen, touching anyone who heard it. By mid-year, Harrow noticed a pattern emerging in the scattered reports. Most sightings clustered along the northern trails, close to the ridge where a logging road once ran. Locals had long avoided the area after dusk, speaking of unnatural stillness, the absence of nocturnal wildlife, and a sense of being watched. Harrow dispatched small teams to investigate, documenting everything with photographs and GPS tracking. They found nothing concrete, only the eerie remnants of human passage, a flattened patch of grass, a torn strap of fabric, broken twigs arranged unnaturally. Every small anomaly felt like a clue deliberately left behind, a breadcrumb trail that mocked their efforts to follow it to a conclusion. The psychological weight on Megan's friends intensified. Months of searching, nights spent patrolling trails, and years of uncertainty began to fracture relationships. Disagreements arose over strategy, over what to believe, over which leads were credible. Some became convinced that Megan had been taken by someone familiar with the area, capable of manipulating the terrain to conceal her entirely. Others feared that she had fallen victim to random violence, an unpredictable act that left no trace. The ambiguity tore at their sense of reality, the line between grief and obsession growing thinner, as the case's cold tendrils reached into every corner of their lives. Harrow found himself drawn back to the early anonymous letters, previously dismissed. He analyzed handwriting, phrasing, postmarks, searching for patterns. Some letters contained knowledge only someone present on that night could possess. Others offered cryptic riddles, references to locations never disclosed publicly. The detective consulted linguistic experts, forensic analysts, even amateur codebreakers, each attempt ending in frustration. Yet he could not abandon the possibility that these communications contained the key to breaking the case open, that a single misinterpreted line might lead to the revelation that had eluded them for years. As summer approached, the town's awareness of Megan's absence intensified. Hikers reported misplaced belongings, items that seemed left deliberately, suggestive of a presence unseen. One woman described finding a scarf caught in the branches, wet but clean, smelling faintly of perfume she recognized from Megan's description. Another discovered footprints in the riverbank mud, large, heavy, disappearing abruptly. Volunteers cataloged these discoveries meticulously, hoping patterns would emerge, but each turned out to be inconclusive upon closer examination. The sense of futility was pervasive, yet the community persisted, driven by loyalty, grief, and an unrelenting desire for closure. Harrow's personal obsession grew. He revisited witness accounts from the original investigation with fresh eyes, detecting inconsistencies previously unnoticed. A friend at the party had described a shimmering figure near the window, details dismissed as imagination at the time. A security camera in a distant convenience store showed a blurred figure walking alongside the highway, matching Megan's clothing. The timestamps conflicted with reported sightings, but the discrepancies themselves suggested movement, deliberate and methodical, as if someone orchestrated every step to evade detection. Each discovery added layers of tension, tightening the grip of uncertainty around the town and the investigation team. By late summer, the town's anxiety had coalesced into a communal unease. Local businesses reported unusual activity, lights flickering, doors found ajar, unexplained sounds in empty rooms. Parents became hypervigilant, children warned to avoid certain paths after dark. Conversations in diners, coffee shops, and bars inevitably turned to Megan, her disappearance, and the possibility that she might still be out there somewhere. The case had transcended fact, entering the realm of legend, a story of absence so potent that even those never directly involved felt its cold shadow. Harrow's persistence led to renewed interviews with long-forgotten acquaintances. Former classmates recalled minor conflicts, cryptic comments she had made, fleeting interactions that now, years later, seemed laden with significance. One coworker mentioned Megan's fascination with maps and paths in the surrounding mountains, a detail initially thought irrelevant but now suggestive. Had she ventured into a location known only to her? Had curiosity, rather than coercion, played a role in her disappearance? The detective weighed each possibility, navigating the treacherous waters between speculation and evidence, aware that even the smallest assumption could shift the course of the investigation dramatically. As the days stretched into weeks, the search continued unabated. Volunteers combed dense forest areas, their radios crackling with static, voices echoing across valleys. Dogs were brought in to detect scent, but the trail was long cold, leaving only residual hints, footprints too old, since washed away by rain and snowmelt. Each expedition returned the same chilling conclusion: absence, silence, emptiness. The town's collective imagination began to fill in the blanks, creating theories both rational and irrational, all centered on the same unresolved enigma. Then came the odd discoveries. A single boot, worn and frayed, was found half-buried along a seldom-used trail. A journal page, yellowed and damp, washed ashore in a small creek. A watch, its hands stopped precisely at the hour Megan vanished. These items, while tantalizing, provided no definitive answers. Forensic analysis offered only speculation. Each find became a rallying point for renewed attention and media coverage, a flicker of hope that dissolved upon further investigation. The town oscillated between optimism and despair, the emotional pendulum swinging wildly as years of mystery continued to weigh heavily. Detective Harrow faced mounting pressure. Public interest surged and waned, with journalists alternating between fascination and criticism. Families demanded answers, the unresolved case a constant thorn in the community's sense of security. Yet Harrow remained relentless, poring over evidence, conducting interviews, chasing leads that vanished into thin air. The psychological toll was immense, the detective burdened not only with professional responsibility but personal investment in a story that had become part of the very fabric of the town. He began to suspect that the resolution, if it ever came, would not be straightforward. Someone somewhere had ensured the disappearance was clean, precise, designed to evade every standard method of detection. By the close of summer, Aspen had settled into an uneasy rhythm. Tourists returned, unaware of the shadow the town carried. Locals moved cautiously, still attuned to whispers of sightings, unexplained occurrences, and the persistent feeling that the forest watched, patient and unyielding. Megan's friends continued to search, maintaining hope despite years of disappointment. Harrow prepared for another cycle of investigations, convinced that a single overlooked detail might yet unlock the case, a key hidden among the minutiae of memory, geography, and human behavior. And as the sun set over the mountains, casting long shadows across the valley, the town held its breath, caught in the quiet tension of a mystery that had refused to release its grip for nearly a decade. Autumn returned with a fiery display, leaves turning shades of crimson and gold, swirling in the wind as though the forest itself was restless, mirroring the unease that gripped Aspen. Detective Harrow drove the winding roads late into the night, headlights cutting swaths of yellow through the fog that rose from mountain streams. Each bend, each shadowed turn, felt loaded with possibility. He reviewed old maps, overlaying modern GPS coordinates with his memory of the trails Megan might have taken. Somewhere in this tangle of trees, underbrush, and forgotten logging roads lay a clue that had eluded him for years. The forest was patient. It withheld secrets with deliberate cruelty. Friends of Megan had organized a vigil along the ridge where she was last seen. Candles flickered in the night, their flames bending in the wind as voices whispered her name, some barely audible, some raw with grief. They shared memories of her laugh, her stubborn streak, the way she had thrown herself into life with reckless energy. Every word was a prayer, every silence a reminder of absence. The wind seemed to carry their voices into the dark forest, and, for a moment, they imagined that she could hear them. Yet the darkness remained unbroken, impenetrable, a silent witness to years of unanswered questions. Then came a break, subtle but electrifying. A hiker reported a backpack caught in a thicket near a seldom-used logging trail. It was waterlogged, partially torn, the strap frayed, the fabric stained. Inside, a notebook, pages damp but legible, contained fragments of handwriting that matched Megan's style. Forensic experts confirmed it was hers. Detective Harrow felt a chill as he held the notebook, flipping through cryptic entries, dates, sketches of trees, references to a figure she called the Watcher. The words hinted at someone observing her movements, someone patient, deliberate, waiting in silence. It was the first tangible connection to that night in 1997, the first physical thread in a decade of absence. Media coverage reignited. Headlines screamed across newspapers and TV screens. Megan Holloway cold case. New evidence emerges after 10 years. Interviews with friends, family, and Harrow himself painted a picture of desperation and perseverance. Letters from the public poured in again, some expressing hope, some offering speculation, some veering toward hysteria. Anonymous tips pointed toward the northern ridge, toward abandoned structures long since forgotten. Volunteers fanned out along the reported areas, flashlights slicing through the shadows, radios crackling with static, voices calling her name. Each discovery, each lead, magnified the tension, a town collectively holding its breath, suspended between hope and despair. The notebook contained a sequence of sketches, paths, tree shapes, peculiar markers she had noted in her walks. Some sketches included a small X near a creek, others depicted a shadowed figure with indistinct features. Harrow studied them obsessively, overlaying the sketches onto maps, attempting to reconstruct her movements. Friends analyzed every detail, debating the meaning of symbols, the significance of dates. One entry referenced a cabin, abandoned but described as a safe place. Another alluded to a meeting with the stranger. It was a jigsaw puzzle of thoughts, fears, and fleeting observations, offering tantalizing glimpses yet frustratingly incomplete. As winter approached once again, the town felt the tension deepen. Locals reported seeing figures in the woods, lights flickering in abandoned cabins, whispers carried by the wind. Some insisted they glimpsed Megan, or someone resembling her, moving silently between trees. Others dismissed these accounts as the manifestation of collective anxiety, the imagination filling the void left by her absence. Yet each report, verified or not, reinforced the notion that the forest had become a labyrinth of secrets, where the past lingered like a specter, patient and unyielding. Harrow began coordinating with forensic specialists from other states, sharing the notebook, photographs of the discovered items, and satellite imagery of the northern trails. DNA from fibers within the backpack was examined with new techniques. While no matches immediately emerged, the fibers suggested a human presence beyond Megan herself, someone who had interacted with her belongings, leaving traces that had gone unnoticed for a decade. Each revelation intensified the urgency, the detective feeling both hope and the suffocating weight of expectation pressing on him. Friends pushed their own investigations further, interviewing distant acquaintances and former neighbors. One recalled seeing Megan speaking to a man in a dark jacket, tall, with a hood obscuring his face, near the party before her disappearance. Another mentioned an unfamiliar car parked near the trailhead the previous night. These fragments, previously dismissed, now gained significance in the light of the recovered notebook. Connections began to emerge, subtle patterns that suggested the presence of an observer, someone who might have planned and executed her disappearance with chilling precision. The psychological strain on the town intensified. Businesses reported unexplained disturbances, objects moved, doors ajar, lights flickering. Children were warned not to wander alone near wooded areas. Conversations in cafes and bars frequently returned to Megan, to the lingering question of what had occurred on that fateful night. Friends described dreams of her silhouette emerging from the forest, only to vanish again. Fear, grief, and obsession coalesced into a persistent presence, a shadow over everyday life. Even Harrow found himself haunted, revisiting old photographs, listening to witness statements late into the night, replaying every decision and interaction as if the answers might be hidden in memory itself. Then, an anonymous call to the station shifted the investigation. A man, voice distorted, claimed knowledge of Megan's last movements, providing directions to a location deep in the forest. Harrow hesitated, aware that it could be a trap, a hoax, or misinformation. Yet he could not ignore the possibility. A team was dispatched discreetly, moving through the dense undergrowth, GPS units tracking every step. Hours passed with tension mounting. The team found remnants of a campsite, charred logs, scattered objects, a partially buried piece of fabric that could not be immediately identified. Every detail was photographed, cataloged, and analyzed, but once again, no definitive conclusion could be drawn. The forest had yielded a breadcrumb trail, but the destination remained obscured. Friends of Megan returned to the scene, following the approximate route indicated in the notebook and by the anonymous tip. Their footsteps were careful, voices whispered. They discovered subtle clues: a flattened patch of grass, a piece of paper caught in a bush, marks on trees suggesting someone had moved deliberately through the area. Each finding was a tantalizing hint, suggesting presence and movement, yet the overall picture remained fragmented. The forest seemed to hold its secrets tightly, teasing, daring them to persist. The emotional toll was immense. Each discovery reignited hope, only to be followed by the stark reality of absence. Harrow began to connect threads between the sightings, the notebook, and the anonymous letters received over the years. Patterns emerged in dates, locations, and references to specific landmarks, suggesting meticulous planning and long-term observation. The possibility of an organized effort to conceal her existence became increasingly plausible. He revisited his initial suspects, questioning whether someone familiar with the terrain, patient, and calculating might have orchestrated her disappearance to evade detection for years. Every detail was reconsidered, every assumption challenged, as the detectives struggled to reconstruct a sequence of events deliberately obscured by time, nature, and human intention. The town's unease reached a peak as rumors of sightings and mysterious activity intensified. Hikers reported seeing tents, smoke, and unidentifiable figures in the woods. Locals spoke of shadows moving where none should exist. Friends of Megan documented everything meticulously, creating timelines and maps, overlaying them with previous sightings and recovered items. Each pattern suggested proximity to her last known location, yet no discovery offered certainty. The search became a collective obsession, a community effort to reconcile grief, fear, and the lingering hope that Megan might somehow still be found. Late one evening, Harrow reviewed surveillance footage from the outskirts of town, taken decades earlier but recently digitized for clarity. A faint figure, barely distinguishable, appeared near a road that led to the northern ridge. The timestamp aligned with accounts in the notebook and letters. The figure paused, looked around, then disappeared into the trees. The detective's heart pounded. Could this finally be a tangible trace of that night, a connection bridging decades of silence? Or was it another cruel illusion, a fragment of memory and imagery offering hope but no confirmation? The uncertainty was maddening, yet the possibility was irresistible. By the end of Part 4, the stage was set for renewed investigation, heightened tension, and the potential for breakthrough. The town remained on edge. Friends were consumed with meticulous search, and Harrow's determination had reached an intensity bordering obsession. Each clue, each fragment of evidence, no matter how small, carried the potential to unravel the years of mystery. Yet the forest remained patient, shadows still holding their secrets, silence stretching over Aspen like a living entity, challenging every attempt to illuminate the truth. The unresolved disappearance of Megan Holloway had become more than a case. It had become a spectral presence, shaping the lives, actions, and emotions of everyone connected to it, a relentless reminder that some mysteries endure beyond explanation. The wind howled through Aspen's ridges as autumn deepened, carrying a chill that seeped into bones and nerves alike. Detective Harrow returned to the northern trails with renewed determination. Maps spread across his dashboard, pins marking every clue, every tip, every fragment of memory collected over the years. The flashlight beam cut through the underbrush, revealing nothing but shadows that seemed to move just beyond vision. Each step felt like stepping into the pulse of the past, the echoes of Megan's final night vibrating in the soil, the trees, the very air around him. Every sound, the crack of a branch, the rustle of leaves, was amplified, suspect, a potential whisper of long-hidden truth. Megan's friends had intensified their own search efforts. Equipped with GPS devices, headlamps, and notebooks, they retraced old paths, explored abandoned cabins, and documented every anomaly. One friend, Emily, stumbled upon a small, makeshift shrine deep in the woods, candles, scraps of paper, and personal items carefully arranged. Some items were weathered beyond recognition, others were identifiable as belonging to Megan. The discovery sent a shiver through the group. Someone had returned, or had been present all these years, leaving markers, signs, reminders that Megan's absence was not forgotten. The forest itself seemed alive with intention, a puzzle demanding careful attention, daring them to understand its language. Harrow coordinated with state authorities and forensic teams, bringing in specialists to examine the shrine. Fibers, traces of DNA, and environmental analysis were conducted meticulously. Preliminary results suggested human activity in recent months, an unsettling revelation. If someone had been interacting with Megan's belongings all this time, who were they, and what was their purpose? The detective felt a mixture of exhilaration and dread. The case was no longer purely historical. It had evolved, becoming active, dangerous, and urgent. Every lead now carried the weight of immediacy, the possibility of confrontation with someone who had deliberately eluded justice for years. The anonymous letters resurfaced again, arriving in envelopes without return addresses, their contents cryptic but eerily precise. One letter referenced the shrine Emily had discovered, describing it in detail before anyone publicly knew of its existence. Harrow examined the handwriting, paper, and ink. The letter contained a map with subtle markings, paths Megan might have walked, and references to a watcher that coincided with entries in her recovered notebook. The detective felt a shiver run down his spine. This was not a coincidence. Someone had been orchestrating a narrative, leaving breadcrumbs designed to be found, yet only partially revealing the full truth. Friends debated the implications of the letters. Were they from Megan herself, alive and hiding? From someone who had taken her? Or perhaps a third party, obsessed, monitoring the investigation and deliberately teasing those searching for answers? Each theory carried weight and horror in equal measure. Tension simmered within the group, fear, hope, and anger blending into a volatile mix. Arguments flared. Some wanted to pursue the trails aggressively, others cautioned patience, wary of provoking whoever had maintained control for so long. Every decision felt fraught, every step potentially critical, as though one misstep could undo years of painstaking work. Harrow focused on reconstructing the timeline. Using the notebook, letters, and the shrine, he began overlaying events, places, and possible interactions. A pattern began to emerge, dates that coincided with unusual sightings, locations corresponding to hidden paths, and repeated references to the ridge trails. One sketch depicted a cabin, small and unassuming, marked with an X. Another referenced a river bend, a location frequently cited in sightings. Harrow's instincts told him these were not random, but deliberate placements, markers left for someone to interpret or perhaps mislead. The meticulousness suggested a mind at work, calculating and patient, someone intimately familiar with the terrain and the people involved. The town's tension escalated. Locals reported strange noises near the trails, footsteps when no one should have been present, glimpses of figures disappearing into the trees, lights flickering in abandoned cabins. Parents warned children not to wander, travelers reported unsettling feelings along isolated roads, and the collective anxiety deepened. Friends and investigators felt it too, a sense of being watched, the forest alive with invisible eyes. The disappearance had become a living entity, a presence embedded in every shadow, every wind gust, every rustle of leaves. Megan's absence shaped the town's perception of safety, reality, and trust. One evening, Emily returned to the shrine alone, flashlight trembling in her grip. She discovered new items, a small pendant, a scrap of clothing, and a note written in handwriting unmistakably Megan's. It read only, "I see you, but you do not see me." Panic, hope, and terror collided in her chest. She ran back to the group, breathless, voice shaking. They examined the note with disbelief and awe. If true, it suggested Megan was alive, aware, perhaps even watching those who searched for her. But if false, it was a cruel trick, orchestrated by someone with intimate knowledge of her life, her habits, and the search efforts. The ambiguity was maddening, heightening the sense that the mystery was alive, evolving, and unpredictable. Harrow coordinated with forensic analysts to verify the authenticity of the note. Handwriting matched known samples of Megan's from her notebook. DNA analysis of fibers on the pendant and scrap of clothing indicated human presence, but inconclusive in identifying anyone besides Megan. The results fueled both hope and uncertainty. Could Megan have survived years in hiding, or was she coerced, forced into silence by an unknown actor? The detective pondered every scenario, aware that time had layered complexity over simplicity, making truth elusive, almost inaccessible. Friends revisited their interviews, questioning anyone who might have interacted with Megan after her disappearance. They spoke with former classmates, coworkers, and distant acquaintances. One recalled seeing her near a town on the outskirts, dressed differently, moving swiftly, avoiding attention. Another remembered a figure calling her name in the shadows. The fragments of memory, scattered and inconsistent, began to align with new evidence, creating a lattice of possibility. Every recollection was scrutinized, cross-referenced, and mapped. The tension was electric, the group aware that even a single overlooked detail could unravel the mystery or provoke danger. Harrow revisited the anonymous letters. Patterns emerged in phrasing, punctuation, and reference points. Dates, locations, and repeated words hinted at knowledge of both Megan and the searchers. He consulted behavioral analysts, exploring the possibility of a single orchestrator, someone intelligent, meticulous, and patient. The analysis suggested a person capable of manipulating perceptions, controlling information, and maintaining distance while observing with precision. The implication was chilling. If Megan's disappearance had been planned and executed, the perpetrator remained at large, still capable of influence, still unseen. Meanwhile, tension within the friend group reached a breaking point. Some advocated returning to the ridge at night, risking exposure to the unknown. Others feared provoking the watcher, or worse, encountering a dangerous individual. Arguments grew heated, tempered only by the collective desire to find Megan. Fear, grief, hope, and determination merged into a relentless drive. The lines between logic and imagination blurred, every tree, shadow, and sound a potential clue or threat. They moved with caution, documenting meticulously, aware that any misstep could compromise both their safety and the investigation. Late nights at Harrow's office were spent analyzing every previous interaction. He compared sightings, sketches, letters, and recovered items. Each new discovery was integrated into a digital map, creating a dynamic representation of activity over years. The detective noted clusters near old logging roads, creek beds, and abandoned cabins. Patterns suggested deliberate movement and surveillance, reinforcing the notion of a controlled disappearance. Harrow's fatigue deepened, yet so did his obsession. He could not ignore the possibility that Megan had survived under the watchful eye of a calculated observer, or worse, that she remained in peril, constrained by forces unseen. The town itself felt the tension. Reports of flickering lights in abandoned buildings, footsteps on empty roads, and fleeting figures in the forest created an atmosphere of unease. Hikers avoided trails, parents restricted children, and businesses operated under the shadow of persistent fear. Conversations inevitably returned to Megan, the missing presence shaping perceptions and behaviors. The psychological weight was collective, affecting everyone who lived, visited, or passed through Aspen. The cold case had become more than an investigation. It was a force, shaping reality, memory, and expectation. As night fell, Harrow and the team coordinated a sweep of the ridge, flashlight beams cutting through fog and darkness. Every tree, rock, and shadow was scrutinized. They discovered traces, flattened vegetation, broken twigs, and faint footprints that suggested recent human activity. Yet when followed, the trail dissipated into nothing, as though deliberately obscured. The detective felt the familiar mix of exhilaration and frustration, evidence of presence, proof of observation, yet no resolution. The forest held its secrets tightly, teasing, taunting, challenging every effort to uncover truth. By the end of Part 5, the stage was set for confrontation with the unknown. Evidence suggested recent activity, authentic markers of presence, and cryptic communications implying awareness and intentionality. The town remained tense, friends persistent, and Harrow's obsession at a peak. The mystery of Megan Holloway's disappearance was no longer static. It was active, alive, evolving, a shadow over Aspen, a challenge to logic, and a test of endurance, hope, and courage. The unresolved threads pulled every participant forward, into the depths of both forest and psyche, demanding attention, vigilance, and an unyielding pursuit of truth. The night hung thick over Aspen, fog curling between pine trunks, shadows lengthening and twisting as if the forest itself were alive. Detective Harrow moved cautiously along the ridge, boots sinking into damp earth, flashlight trembling slightly in his grip. Each snap of a twig, each whisper of wind, sounded exaggerated, amplified by anticipation and exhaustion. He replayed every sighting, every scrap of evidence, the notebook, the letters, the shrine, the mysterious pendant forming a mental map of Megan's potential movements. Somewhere in the darkness, somewhere in the winding underbrush, a fragment of truth waited, patient and watchful. Friends followed close behind, tension etched into their faces. Emily clutched a small flashlight, fingers tightening around it, sweat mingling with the chill of the night. Their path was littered with obstacles, gnarled roots, sudden drops, and patches of loose soil that threatened to fall with every step. Every creak of a branch, every rustle in the bushes, set hearts racing. The night air carried both hope and dread, the possibility of discovery and the fear of confrontation intertwined, forming an almost tangible weight that pressed on their shoulders. Each step forward felt like trespassing into a hidden world, one carefully constructed and deliberately obscure. Then came a sound, a faint whisper carried on the wind, unintelligible but deliberate. Harrow froze. The friends stiffened. All movement ceased. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Another whisper followed, this time closer, more deliberate, a cadence that suggested intent. Flashlights swept the undergrowth, catching glimpses of movement, a shadow darting behind a tree, vanishing before it could be identified. Emily gasped, barely audible, and Harrow's pulse quickened. Someone was there, or something, and it was aware of them. The forest had shifted from silent observer to active participant, a stage for an unseen player. Hours passed in tense observation. The team discovered more signs, footprints partially concealed by leaves, small items arranged almost ceremoniously, and subtle disturbances in the underbrush that suggested a human presence moving deliberately to evade detection. Each discovery heightened both hope and fear. The proximity of evidence suggested that Megan, or someone connected to her, had been nearby recently. Harrow's mind raced through possibilities. Could she have survived years in hiding? Or was this the work of an observer, someone orchestrating the mystery from the shadows? The line between hope and terror blurred with every revelation. A sudden movement caught Emily's attention. At first, she thought it was a deer, but the gait was different, deliberate, cautious, human. She whispered to the others, and they froze, eyes straining through darkness. The figure paused, partially visible between tree trunks, watching, evaluating. Harrow signaled silently for the group to hold position. Heartbeats echoed in his ears. The figure moved again, slower this time, retreating into a thicker patch of trees. It left a faint trail, footprints, broken twigs, an impression of presence that the team followed cautiously, senses heightened, adrenaline coursing. Deeper into the forest, the trail led to a narrow ravine. Moss-covered rocks and twisted roots made footing treacherous, but the investigators pressed on. Signs suggested someone had recently used the area as temporary shelter, a small fire pit, flattened patches of grass, remnants of food wrappers, and another scrap of paper with handwriting resembling Megan's, though partially smudged by moisture. The detective's hands trembled as he examined it. Phrases like, "I am close," and "they watch," were scrawled, hinting at surveillance, fear, and movement. Was it a communication from Megan herself, or from someone else manipulating the narrative? The ambiguity tightened the knot of suspense around every thought, every decision, every breath. As they advanced further, Emily discovered a small, concealed opening beneath a cluster of ferns and fallen logs, a makeshift entrance, almost hidden from casual view. Harrow crouched beside it, flashlight illuminating a dark hollow. The air smelled damp, metallic, charged with history and secrecy. Inside, the outline of what could be a small encampment, a blanket, a backpack, personal items emerged. All of it suggested habitation, intentional and recent. Detective Harrow's mind reeled. The physical evidence indicated someone had been here not long ago. Was Megan alive and hiding, or was this the work of a calculating observer, leaving signs meant to be found? The question, more than any fact, created an electric tension that crackled through the group. Voices barely above whispers debated what to do next. Fear of confrontation with a potentially dangerous individual competed with the desperate need for answers. Every scenario was terrifying. Megan alive but trapped, Megan in danger, an unknown orchestrator manipulating events, or some combination of all three. The forest seemed to respond to their indecision, shadows shifting, gusts of wind passing through the hollow, carrying indistinct sounds that could have been words, calls, or nothing at all. Time dilated, stretched into tense minutes that felt like hours, as the investigators and friends weighed every possibility, every step, every sound. Then, unexpectedly, a glint caught Harrow's eye, a metallic object partially buried beneath leaves. He bent down, careful not to disturb surrounding evidence. It was a small key engraved with symbols matching those in Megan's notebook. The detective felt a shock of recognition, a shiver of anticipation. If the key fit somewhere, it could unlock the next piece of the puzzle, potentially bringing clarity after nearly a decade of uncertainty. Fingers trembling, he pocketed the object, aware that it was simultaneously a tool and a message, left intentionally or accidentally, but impossible to ignore. The discovery reignited energy among the group. They began mapping locations, reconstructing timelines, overlaying new evidence with old sightings and recovered items. The pieces were coming together, slowly, almost painfully, but the image remained incomplete. The forest, as if aware of their progress, seemed to grow denser, shadows more opaque, wind more insistent. Every step forward carried risk, not only of failure, but of confrontation with whoever had orchestrated Megan's disappearance, or with nature itself, concealing secrets with ruthless precision. In the early hours of the next morning, a faint sound echoed through the trees, a whistle, deliberate and rhythmic, distinct from the natural rustling. Emily froze, recognizing it from a memory she had buried, a similar sound on the night Megan disappeared. Harrow signaled for silence. The team moved cautiously, following the sound to a clearing near a creek bend previously marked in the recovered notebook. There, partially hidden under overgrown foliage, was a small structure, a shed, long abandoned, yet recently disturbed. Evidence suggested human presence, deliberate manipulation, an organized space that had gone unnoticed for years. The detective felt both excitement and dread. The possibility of discovery was tangible, immediate, yet danger was as close as the shadows surrounding them. Harrow examined the shed methodically. The floor was marked with faint impressions, as though someone had paced or knelt. Personal items were scattered, a scarf matching Megan's description, a notebook, a worn jacket, and fragments of letters, some familiar, some new. The detective's pulse quickened. Could Megan have been here, hiding all these years, leaving cryptic markers for friends and investigators? Or was this an elaborate setup, a psychological game crafted by someone patient, intelligent, and methodical? Each possibility carried both hope and terror, a precarious balance that held the group in suspended tension. As daylight broke, the forest revealed further clues, subtle footprints, small indentations along the creek, remnants of food, and items placed with care. The team documented meticulously, aware that each piece of evidence could shift the course of the investigation dramatically. Conversations among friends reflected both optimism and fear, memories of Megan blending with speculation, hope intermingling with dread. The forest, patient and silent for years, was now an active participant in the narrative, shaping every decision, every step, every heartbeat. By the end of Part 6, the investigation had entered a critical phase. Recent evidence, cryptic messages, and tangible traces suggested either the survival of Megan or the presence of a deliberate observer controlling the narrative. The town's anxiety had reached a peak. Friends and investigators alike were acutely aware that answers were within reach yet still obscured, that danger and revelation coexisted in every shadow, and that the mystery had evolved from historical cold case into immediate, living enigma. Detective Harrow's obsession, the friends' determination, and the forest's secrets all converged, setting the stage for revelations that could shock the community and redefine the narrative of Megan Holloway's disappearance. Dawn barely penetrated the dense forest, leaving shadows thick, oppressive, alive. Detective Harrow crouched near the creek, boots muddy, flashlight illuminating fragments of evidence scattered across the damp ground. The shed, partially hidden beneath overgrowth, had revealed items that defied simple explanation: a scarf she might have worn, fragments of a notebook, a small pendant with intricate engraving matching one Emily had discovered earlier. Each piece was tangible, physical, yet hinted at a presence as ephemeral as smoke. The forest seemed aware, patient, holding secrets deliberately beyond reach, daring them to uncover truths that may not wish to be known. Emily and the others followed silently, voices stilled by awe and fear. Every step was a negotiation with the unknown, roots snagged ankles, leaves crunched softly, each sound amplified in the cold air. The group's senses were taut, nerves stretched to snapping point. They documented meticulously: sketches of the shed, photographs of items, GPS coordinates. Every mark, every scrap, every indentation in the mud could be pivotal. Yet the deeper they moved, the more the forest seemed to shift, hiding, revealing, teasing, testing their focus. The line between reality and imagination blurred with each passing moment. Harrow examined the pendant, noting its intricate markings, and compared them to sketches in Megan's notebook. There was consistency, unmistakable, deliberate. It suggested communication, a trail left intentionally for someone to follow. But why now, after years of silence? Was Megan orchestrating this herself, leaving breadcrumbs to be discovered at the right time? Or was it a watcher, a manipulator, someone orchestrating a cruel game, controlling both her movements and those of the investigators? Each theory carried horror and possibility in equal measure, a duality that gripped every thought. Then a sound, a branch snapping sharply, not far from the clearing, caused the group to freeze. Flashlights darted, scanning the shadows, illuminating nothing but trees and fog. Harrow's gut tightened. They were no longer alone. Footsteps, light but deliberate, echoed, moving parallel to the creek. Emily's hand trembled as she reached for her flashlight. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. Harrow nodded, signaling silence. The tension coiled tighter. The forest had become a stage for something unseen, orchestrating each heartbeat with precision. Minutes dragged as the sound faded and reappeared intermittently. The trail led the team to an embankment overlooking a small waterfall, the roar of water masking subtle noises. A shape, a figure crouched, indistinct, obscured by shadows, was glimpsed briefly. Harrow signaled to proceed slowly, careful not to startle it. As they approached, the figure vanished, leaving only a small scrap of paper pinned under a rock. Harrow picked it up carefully, a single line scrawled in handwriting strikingly familiar. "I am closer than you think." The words were at once tantalizing and terrifying, suggesting proximity and awareness, control and observation. The group was electrified and terrified. Could Megan be here, leaving messages deliberately for them? Or was this the work of someone else, a watcher controlling the narrative, manipulating the evidence, creating tension, and playing with the investigation? The line between hope and fear blurred. Every heartbeat felt amplified, every shadow a potential answer or threat. Harrow's mind raced through scenarios, each more chilling than the last. The mystery had evolved into a psychological labyrinth where every clue carried multiple interpretations, every discovery layered with ambiguity. As they descended the embankment, Emily spotted something glinting under moss, a small metallic object partially buried. It was a key, familiar in design, matching symbols from both the notebook and previous pendants. Harrow's pulse quickened. The key suggested access, movement, hidden space, perhaps a clue intentionally left for discovery. The significance was immediate. It tied multiple threads together, bridging past and present, material and cryptic. Each piece began to form a mosaic, a map pointing toward something long concealed, orchestrated with patience and precision. Footsteps approached again, faint but deliberate. The team froze, flashlights catching fleeting glimpses of movement in the mist. A voice whispered from the shadows, indecipherable but deliberate, a tonal cadence that suggested awareness of their presence. Emily swallowed hard, gripping Harrow's arm. The detective raised his hand, signaling caution. They advanced slowly, documenting each footprint, each subtle disturbance in the forest floor. The forest itself seemed to participate, guiding them with hints, shadows, and whispers. Hours passed in tense, meticulous exploration. The forest revealed fragments, flattened grass, bent branches, remnants of food carefully concealed, and a small journal matching Megan's handwriting. Each discovery suggested recent activity and deliberate placement. The implication was chilling. Someone had survived, hidden, and been aware of the searchers' movements. Every clue amplified the tension, weaving a narrative of presence, absence, observation, and evasion. Hope and fear intertwined like vines around their hearts. By midday, the team reached a secondary clearing, small and secluded. Evidence suggested habitation, a fire pit, footprints, items arranged with purpose. Harrow examined every detail, noting patterns, repetitions, subtle indicators of human activity. A torn page from a notebook, folded and partially hidden, referenced landmarks previously overlooked, a rock formation shaped like a jagged arrow, a tree with bark carved in a distinctive pattern, a small clearing near a creek bend. The detective recognized the significance immediately. The items were deliberate markers, breadcrumbs meant to guide or mislead, revealing both presence and intent. Emily's eyes widened as she discovered another scrap, a note written in Megan's hand. It read, "I have seen you. Do not follow blindly. Danger is closer than the trees." Panic surged alongside hope. Could Megan herself be alive, sending warnings? Or was this an elaborate ruse by someone observing the investigators, manipulating the narrative, and controlling the rhythm of discovery? Each scenario carried equal terror. The forest held the answer, patient and indifferent, a living maze testing patience, courage, and resolve. As afternoon waned, Harrow assembled the team. They cataloged every item, every trace, every subtle sign of movement. The forest's rhythm dictated their progress. Shadows lengthened, temperature dropped, and the ambient sounds intensified, from the distant murmur of the creek to the snap of falling branches. Each step, each careful examination, heightened both anticipation and anxiety. The possibility of uncovering Megan, alive or otherwise, was immediate yet obscured, tangible yet terrifying. The forest was no longer silent. It communicated through presence, absence, and the subtle orchestration of evidence. Then came the most striking discovery, a small, partially buried hatch beneath the creek bank, concealed under leaves and rocks. The key they had found earlier seemed to match the lock's dimensions. Harrow's hands shook as he inserted the key and turned it slowly. A mechanical click echoed in the hollow space beneath the waterlogged earth. The hatch opened to reveal a narrow passage, dimly lit by ambient daylight filtering through cracks above. Inside, signs of habitation, blankets, personal items, and remnants of daily life, meticulously arranged. The realization struck the group with simultaneous horror and relief. Someone had lived here, deliberately hidden, surviving, or being concealed for an unknown period. The emotional impact was profound. Hope surged alongside terror. Could this be Megan herself? Or had someone else maintained this hidden space, manipulating evidence, leaving signs to draw investigators closer? Each scenario carried consequences: rescue, confrontation, revelation, or danger. Harrow signaled caution. They began documenting the passage, photographing items, noting every subtle indicator of human activity. The forest around them seemed to hold its breath, observing, waiting. By the end of Part 7, the investigation had reached a near-crisis point. Evidence suggested recent activity, a deliberate narrative, and a hidden presence controlling events. The friends' perseverance, Harrow's obsession, and the forest's mysterious behavior converged into a tense tableau. The stage was set for revelation, confrontation, and the culmination of years of uncertainty. The town of Aspen remained suspended in anxious anticipation, while the forest itself seemed to challenge, tease, and protect its long-held secrets. The disappearance of Megan Holloway was no longer a distant memory. It had become immediate, active, and charged with both promise and peril, each heartbeat carrying the weight of discovery and danger. Night descended again over Aspen, thick and suffocating, fog rolling through pine trunks like a living shroud. Detective Harrow crouched at the mouth of the narrow passage beneath the creek bank, flashlight casting long beams into the dim space. Every breath, every movement was calculated. The passage smelled of damp earth and years of concealment, mixed with the faint tang of something metallic, something deliberate. Each artifact in the hollow, blankets, personal items, remnants of food, was a testament to careful survival or careful orchestration. Who had maintained this space? Megan or someone else entirely? The question loomed with a weight almost physical. Emily and the others followed closely, tension etched into every line of their faces. They carried notebooks, cameras, flashlights, moving with the silent urgency of explorers and investigators combined. Each step was deliberate, every sound amplified by anticipation and fear. Twigs snapped underfoot, water dripped from unseen cracks above, a faint draft carried whispers from beyond. They were entering a realm where time felt suspended, the line between past and present blurred, and every shadow could be a clue or a threat. Inside the passage, remnants of daily life suggested careful planning: small containers of food, items of clothing, a partially destroyed notebook whose pages were damp but legible. Harrow flipped through them carefully. Dates, sketches, cryptic notations, every fragment reinforced the notion of observation and intentionality. Phrases like, "They are watching me too," and "I must be careful," repeated across pages, interwoven with sketches of trails, trees, and hidden clearings. The evidence was not random. It suggested someone meticulous, intelligent, patient, and deeply aware of surveillance. The forest had become both shield and stage for a secret life, unknown and hidden from the world above. Then came a noise, soft, deliberate, footsteps echoing from deeper within the passage. Every head turned, hearts thudded in unison. Harrow signaled for silence, every muscle taut, senses heightened to the limit. The faint crunch of dirt, the shift of a shadow, suggested a presence, deliberate and cautious, possibly aware of their intrusion. Emily's hand shook around her flashlight. A figure emerged briefly from the darkness, blurred, indistinct, yet unmistakably human. And then, as quickly as it appeared, the figure vanished, leaving only a faint trail of footprints in damp soil, partially obscured but unmistakable in their presence. The team advanced carefully, documenting every step. The footprints led to a small chamber within the hollow, partially concealed by rocks and roots. Their items were arranged with almost ceremonial precision: personal belongings, scraps of paper, and a small wooden box locked with a tiny clasp. Harrow's pulse quickened. The box seemed significant, a focal point, a repository of truth. Hands trembling, he pried it open. Inside were photographs, letters, and a small journal, items unmistakably connected to Megan. The images captured moments from years past: a smiling Megan at a party, another walking along the northern ridge, a shadowy figure in the background of some photos, obscured but unmistakably present. The letters contained cryptic messages, references to trails, hidden spaces, and someone watching. The implications hit the team like a physical blow. Someone had been there all along, orchestrating, observing, perhaps controlling the narrative. Megan's own words, if indeed they were hers, hinted at fear, survival, and intelligence beyond what anyone could have imagined. Harrow studied each letter, each photograph, each scrap of paper. Connections emerged. The shadowy figure in the photos matched descriptions from earlier sightings, alignments with notebook sketches, and markers left in the forest. The puzzle began to form a pattern, deliberate and chilling. As the team processed the discovery, a faint voice called from above the hollow, barely audible over the wind. Harrow froze. "Who's there?" he called. Silence answered. Then movement. A branch snapping above signaled a figure watching from the ridge. The team realized that while they had found evidence, someone or something remained aware, observing their every move. The forest had become an arena for a tense psychological game, orchestrated over decades, its rules understood only by the hidden actor. Hours passed, daylight waned, and the forest seemed to grow thicker, shadows blending with fog, creating illusions, hiding trails, and amplifying every sound. Emily discovered a fragment of a notebook partially tucked under a rock, sketches of the creek, the hidden hatch, markings that corresponded to the recently opened box. Harrow's pulse raced. Each piece was a breadcrumb, a deliberate path of communication, evidence of survival, intelligence, and planning. The hollow had become a nexus of mystery, a physical manifestation of secrecy, control, and hidden presence. Harrow and the team mapped every element, overlaying sketches, photographs, letters, and footprints. Patterns emerged, specific clearings marked in multiple sources, repeated symbols, recurring reference to a small cabin near the creek bend. The cabin, abandoned but structurally sound, became the focus. Its coordinates matched entries in Megan's notebook and cryptic phrases from letters. The detective realized the investigation had shifted from passive exploration to strategic pursuit. Every step could be critical. Every oversight could allow the orchestrator to elude them once more. As night deepened, the first real breakthrough occurred. A local hiker, previously interviewed, contacted the station with a shocking claim. He had seen a young woman matching Megan's description walking near the northern ridge late at night, appearing cautious, aware, almost spectral. He described a figure moving deliberately through the trees, disappearing into shadow, carrying a small bundle. Harrow's heart pounded. If true, this was the first confirmed sighting of Megan herself, alive after all these years. The implications were electrifying. The case was no longer static. It had become immediate, urgent, and potentially volatile. The forest seemed to respond to the news. Night sounds intensified, rustling leaves, snapping branches, the distant murmur of water. Every shadow, every wind gust, carried possibility and threat. Emily's hands trembled as she documented each observation. The detective organized a rapid response team, determined to reach the cabin before whatever presence had maintained control could react. Footprints, sketches, and letters suggested someone highly aware, calculating, possibly dangerous. The urgency was palpable. Each step toward resolution was a step into both revelation and risk. They moved with extreme caution, navigating the forest's treacherous terrain. Every tree, rock, and root was scrutinized. Every sound was potential intelligence. As they approached the creek bend, the signs of recent habitation intensified: flattened grass, disturbed soil, and remnants of a campfire that had burned within the last 24 hours. Harrow realized they were on the verge of discovery, either Megan herself or the orchestrator who had controlled the case for years. The anticipation was suffocating. Emily spotted movement, a shadow flitting between trees. The group froze, flashlights illuminating only empty space. Then, a faint whistle, rhythmic and deliberate, echoed across the ridge. It matched the one Emily had remembered from years ago, associated with Megan's disappearance. Harrow's pulse raced. The sound suggested proximity, awareness, intelligence. Whoever, or whatever, was responsible was aware of their approach. The forest had become a psychological labyrinth, every sound, shadow, and footprint a potential message or trap. The team pressed forward, discovering a series of subtle markers along the path, rocks arranged in deliberate patterns, broken branches positioned like arrows, small scraps of paper with symbols matching Megan's notebook. Each clue reinforced the sense of observation, manipulation, and intelligence behind the mystery. Harrow realized they were being led, intentionally or not, to the hidden cabin. The psychological tension was nearly unbearable. Every heartbeat, every rustle of leaves carried weight. Finally, the cabin appeared through the fog and shadows, partially hidden by trees and undergrowth. Its windows were dark, the structure seemingly abandoned, yet signs of recent habitation were evident: footprints, disturbed dirt, remnants of blankets, and faint smoke rising from a chimney. Harrow signaled the team to halt. Every instinct screamed caution. This could be Megan, alive and hiding, or a dangerous individual who had orchestrated years of observation, manipulation, and concealment. Every possible outcome carried urgency, danger, and revelation. By the end of Part 8, the investigation had reached its critical point. Evidence suggested imminent proximity to the truth: recent habitation, cryptic messages, confirmed sightings, and a clear path leading to the hidden cabin. The forest, patient for decades, had revealed its most tangible clues, guiding the searchers toward revelation while simultaneously heightening the stakes. Detective Harrow, Emily, and the friends faced the precipice of discovery, where hope, danger, and the possibility of closure collided, leaving the town of Aspen suspended in anticipation. Unaware that the long-buried secrets of Megan Holloway's disappearance were about to emerge from shadow into the light, or dissolve once more into the forest's patient darkness. The fog thickened as the team approached the cabin, every step muffled by damp leaves and soil. Detective Harrow's flashlight cut narrow beams through the gloom, illuminating twisted roots, low-hanging branches, and shadows that seemed to shift just beyond vision. Each snap of a twig, each rustle of undergrowth, felt amplified, charged with the possibility of discovery or confrontation. The cabin loomed ahead, partially obscured, its darkened windows reflecting fragments of moonlight. Signs of recent habitation were undeniable: footprints, a faint scent of smoke, a displaced blanket, and the subtle indentation of someone kneeling or crouching nearby. Every detail screamed presence, alert intelligence. Emily swallowed hard, clutching her flashlight like a lifeline. Her mind raced through memories, scraps of the past, and fragments of Megan's recovered notebook. Every symbol, every cryptic note, every hidden marker suddenly seemed to converge toward this precise location. Harrow motioned the team to split carefully. One group approached the entrance, the other circled the perimeter, leaving no flank unchecked. Silence reigned, punctuated only by the distant rustle of leaves and the faint gurgle of the creek. The forest itself seemed to hold its breath, tense and expectant. As Harrow reached the cabin door, a subtle movement caught his eye, a shadow flitting just beyond a window, vanishing almost instantly. Heart pounding, he signaled for the others to halt. The air felt electric, each breath weighted with anticipation. Whoever, or whatever, was inside was aware of their approach. The detective slowly reached for the doorknob, pressing his ear to the wood, listening. Faint sounds shuffling, a quiet sigh, perhaps a whispered word, echoed from within. The team exchanged tense glances. Every instinct screamed caution. Then came a sudden, startling shift. A scrap of paper slid under the door. Harrow bent to retrieve it, careful not to make noise. The note was brief, written in handwriting unmistakably Megan's. "Do not fear. I am here. But do not rush. Watch and see." Emily's hands trembled. Could it truly be Megan, alive and aware? Or was this a message from a manipulator, someone orchestrating the narrative, guiding their emotions, controlling perception? The ambiguity heightened the tension, making the moment both exhilarating and terrifying. The team moved carefully around the cabin, documenting every detail. Broken twigs, subtle indentations, displaced leaves all suggested recent activity. The pendant, key, and notes recovered earlier formed a narrative that pointed directly to this space. Harrow's mind raced, analyzing patterns, cross-referencing sketches, photographs, and letters. It was almost impossibly meticulous, a web of signs and markers designed to lead investigators step by step. Whoever had orchestrated this understood psychology, patience, and terrain in equal measure. A faint creak sounded from above, the cabin's roof, perhaps, or an upper floor. Emily stiffened. Harrow signaled the team to hold. Every nerve was taut, every heartbeat amplified. The forest seemed to amplify every sound, every movement, creating the illusion that the cabin itself was alive, aware, protective of its secrets. They waited, breath held, flashlights sweeping shadows, searching for a clue, a movement, a sign. The minutes stretched into eternity. Then a voice, soft, cautious, yet unmistakable, whispered from within the cabin. "Hello." The words were hesitant, fragile, human. Emily's hand went to her mouth to stifle a gasp. Harrow exchanged a glance with the team, nodding slowly. The detective's heart thudded. Could it be her? After all these years? He called softly, carefully, "Megan? It's Detective Harrow. We're here to help." "You're safe." Silence followed. Then the faint sound of footsteps retreating further into the cabin. The tension escalated as the team navigated around the cabin, searching for a point of entry without forcing confrontation. Each step revealed more signs of presence: a small bedroll, carefully arranged supplies, a journal open to pages describing careful movement through the forest, encounters with strangers, and cryptic references to being observed. The handwriting matched the recovered notebook. It suggested survival, awareness, intelligence, and deliberate concealment. Every page deepened the mystery while simultaneously promising revelation. Hours passed as the team examined the perimeter, piecing together the narrative. Evidence suggested that Megan had maintained this space for months, possibly years, moving carefully through the forest, aware of dangers, leaving subtle markers for those who might search for her. Yet the meticulousness also suggested someone else, an orchestrator, a watcher, possibly controlling interactions, monitoring movements, and manipulating perception. Harrow's pulse raced with the dual possibility of rescue or confrontation with a calculated, potentially dangerous individual. Suddenly, Emily noticed a faint imprint on the dirt near the cabin's back entrance, a boot, small and deliberate, leading toward the forest edge. The team followed cautiously, flashlights scanning the undergrowth. Signs of recent passage were unmistakable: broken branches, subtle indentations, remnants of leaves displaced by deliberate movement. Harrow's mind reeled. Whoever had left these traces had intimate knowledge of the terrain and the team's search patterns. The possibility that Megan herself had moved recently, evading detection, filled the group with both hope and terror. A sudden rustle in the trees made everyone freeze. Emily's flashlight caught movement, a figure darting between shadows, vanishing before it could be clearly identified. Harrow's heart pounded. The presence was deliberate, aware, possibly guiding, possibly threatening. The forest itself seemed complicit, hiding, revealing, challenging every step. Every sound, shadow, and footprint became a potential signal or trap. The psychological tension was nearly unbearable, a relentless pressure on nerves, hearts, and judgment. Harrow called the team together, reviewing every piece of evidence, every trace, every note, and footprint. Patterns emerged: repeated symbols, sketches corresponding to landmarks, and deliberate placements suggesting guidance or manipulation. The detective realized they were approaching a critical juncture, either discovery, confrontation, or both. The cabin was more than shelter. It was a node in a network of signs, evidence of intelligence and observation, possibly the final link in a chain that had eluded resolution for over 2 decades. Then came the breakthrough. A door at the side of the cabin, partially concealed by shadows, appeared recently disturbed. Harrow moved forward slowly, key in hand, flashlight angled to catch movement. Every muscle tensed. The door creaked as he pushed it open slightly, revealing a narrow interior hallway. Items were arranged meticulously along the walls: clothing, notes, photographs, each indicating careful curation, deliberate display, awareness of those observing. Emily gasped, recognizing a familiar scarf folded neatly on a chair. Harrow's pulse raced. The evidence suggested proximity, awareness, survival, and a mind orchestrating events with precision. Inside the cabin, the air was thick with tension and history. Every item was a clue, a breadcrumb, a signal from someone who had survived, hidden, and possibly orchestrated the ongoing investigation. Harrow moved cautiously, examining journals and personal items. Sketches mapped trails, symbols matched previous clues, and cryptic phrases hinted at observation, awareness, and controlled movement. The forest had funneled them here, but the orchestrator remained elusive, aware, and deliberate. Each discovery amplified suspense, hope, and fear simultaneously. As night deepened, a faint silhouette appeared near a window. Emily whispered, pointing. Harrow's team froze, flashlights trembling in their grips. The figure moved with caution, deliberate awareness, and intelligence. Recognition flashed, a glimpse of a familiar stance, posture, a fragment of hair visible in the dim light. Could it be Megan? Or the orchestrator controlling this elaborate labyrinth? The moment stretched, suspense hanging thick, tangible, oppressive. Every heartbeat echoed through the forest, every breath felt amplified, as if time itself had slowed to witness the unfolding revelation. By the end of Part 9, the stage was set for confrontation, revelation, and the highest tension. Evidence suggested imminent contact with either Megan herself or the individual orchestrating her concealment. The forest, patient and enigmatic, had guided the searchers to the threshold of truth while amplifying fear, anticipation, and uncertainty. Detective Harrow, Emily, and the friends stood at the precipice, the long shadows of the mystery stretching before them, the town of Aspen oblivious to the climax approaching in the heart of the dense, enigmatic forest. Every step, every decision, carried the weight of decades, promise, and peril, the mystery poised to either unravel or deepen beyond imagination. The forest had fallen into a tense hush, as if holding its breath for the confrontation to come. Detective Harrow and the team moved with extreme caution, flashlights sweeping across the cabin's shadowed exterior. Each movement, each step on damp leaves, carried weight, uncertainty, and risk. The wind rustled through the pines, carrying faint whispers of the creek below, mingling with the heavy tension that wrapped the night like a shroud. The moment they had pursued for decades, guided by fragmented clues, cryptic notes, and a relentless hope, was now within reach. Emily's flashlight trembled in her hands, illuminating the cabin's side door where subtle movements had been spotted earlier. The scarf she had seen in photographs, meticulously folded, rested atop a chair visible through a grimy windowpane. The air smelled faintly of smoke, wood, and damp earth, hinting at recent activity. Harrow signaled for silence, every member of the team understanding instinctively that the next steps were pivotal. Footsteps, whispers, and shadows had guided them here, but now reality, flesh and presence, would reveal itself. Suddenly, movement, quick, deliberate, precise, along the far side of the cabin. Harrow froze, crouching, hand poised near the firearm at his hip. A figure stepped into view, partially obscured by shadows and foliage. The posture was familiar, cautious, aware. Emily's breath caught in her throat. The figure paused, as if evaluating, calculating, aware of their presence, yet not fleeing. Harrow whispered, "Megan." The figure's head tilted slightly, a momentary hesitation, and then recognition or acknowledgement flickered in the dim moonlight. The team advanced slowly, careful not to provoke or startle. Each footstep was deliberate, each movement measured. The figure retreated a few steps, but did not vanish, maintaining a distance, staying within the protective cover of shadow. Harrow raised a hand, signaling the team to halt. The forest seemed impossibly still, amplifying every heartbeat, every rustle, every whisper. Emily's mind raced, memories and fear colliding. Could this truly be Megan? Alive, aware, watching, hidden for decades yet now revealed? Or was this someone else, controlling the labyrinthine mystery, manipulating perception and tension? A single whistle pierced the night, soft, familiar, deliberate. Emily gasped, the sound echoing memories of long-ago whispers, of the ridge, of vanished footsteps. The figure paused, responding to the call in an almost imperceptible nod. Harrow's pulse pounded. The forest was no longer just terrain. It was a medium for communication, a stage for observation, and a vessel of revelation. Every shadow, every leaf, every broken branch became part of a living narrative, guiding them, testing them, revealing only what it chose to disclose. Harrow's voice, calm yet firm, called out, "We're not here to hurt you. We're here to help. You're safe." Silence followed. Then a hesitant step forward. The figure emerged further from the shadows, now partially illuminated by Harrow's flashlight. Recognition was undeniable. Megan, altered by time, cautious, alive, yet carrying the weight of years in hiding. Her eyes, wide and alert, scanned the team, taking in Emily, Harrow, and the others. There was fear, yes, but also relief, an acknowledgement that the search, the persistence, had not been in vain. Emily stepped forward slowly, voice trembling. "Megan, we've been searching for you. All this time we never gave up." Megan's gaze flicked to her, a mixture of sorrow, caution, and something almost imperceptibly hopeful. The night seemed to contract around them, the forest holding its breath, amplifying the raw, unfiltered emotion of reunion, revelation, and uncertainty. Every instinct screamed to proceed gently, to acknowledge the fragility of this moment while understanding the stakes, the potential danger, the lingering mysteries, and the unresolved fears. Harrow motioned for quiet, allowing Megan to speak, to choose her words. She whispered, voice low, cautious, yet undeniably hers. I've been here. Watching. Hiding. Some things cannot be shared. Not yet. Not safely. But I am alive." The words hung in the air, charged, electrifying, both confirmation and ambiguity. The team processed the enormity of what they had heard. Megan Holloway, missing for decades, alive, yet constrained by forces or fears unknown, had maintained presence, awareness, and deliberate concealment. Evidence from the cabin, the hollow, and the trails coalesced into understanding. Every scrap, every note, every cryptic symbol had been a deliberate guide, a carefully constructed path toward discovery, or testing the persistence and patience of those seeking her. The forest, alive with history and secrecy, had guarded and revealed in equal measure. Megan's revelation transformed the cold case from distant memory into immediate, palpable reality, yet questions remained. Why had she remained hidden? Who had threatened or observed her? And what risks persisted now that she had emerged, even partially? The team adjusted strategy, prioritizing safety, clarity, and communication. Megan shared selective details, enough to confirm survival, movement, and deliberate concealment, but little that revealed her full story. The forest seemed to listen, shadows moving in the periphery, as if acknowledging the balance between revelation and continued secrecy. Harrow and Emily documented everything carefully, understanding that every gesture, word, and expression was part of an evolving narrative. Hours passed with cautious conversation, careful observation, and meticulous documentation. Megan revealed clues about survival, the use of hidden paths, concealed shelters, and careful observation of those around her. Items in the cabin, previously enigmatic, now spoke with meaning, communication, survival, and subtle markers for those persistent enough to follow her trail. Harrow realized that the mystery was both resolved and ongoing. Discovery had occurred, but understanding, interpretation, and trust remained in flux. Night deepened, bringing with it a surreal clarity. The team observed the forest's rhythm, wind, shadows, distant creek, and rustling foliage, all part of the environment Megan had navigated for years. Her presence had shaped the landscape of the search, controlling perception, guiding discovery, and protecting herself with intelligence and patience. Each artifact, note, and trail became a testament to resilience, calculation, and survival. The cold case was no longer abstract. It had human form, intelligence, and awareness standing before them. Emily, tears welling, asked gently, "Why now? Why reveal yourself tonight?" Megan's eyes, glinting in dim moonlight, held unspoken understanding, sorrow, and guarded hope. She replied softly, "The forest knows. The right moment I could not come before. But persistence, courage, and careful observation brought you here. I am alive, but the past it cannot be undone." Her words struck deep, confirmation tempered by enduring mystery, revelation tempered by lingering ambiguity. The forest seemed to echo her sentiment, a silent witness to years of absence and observation. By the end of Part 10, the investigation had reached an emotional and narrative peak. Megan's presence confirmed survival, answered decades of questions, and yet left unresolved tension, danger, and ambiguity. Detective Harrow, Emily, and the friends were at the threshold of closure, witness to both revelation and lingering uncertainty. The town of Aspen remained unaware, oblivious to the climax unfolding in the forest's depths. The mystery, long considered cold, had transformed into a living, immediate, and emotionally charged confrontation with truth, perception, and endurance. Every heartbeat carried both relief and suspense, the delicate balance between discovery and the enduring enigma of Megan Holloway's years in hiding. The first hints of dawn bled through the thick forest canopy, pale light struggling against lingering fog. Detective Harrow, Emily, and the team remained at the cabin's edge, hearts still hammering, senses taut from hours of tension, anticipation, and revelation. Megan stood before them, cautious, guarded, yet undeniably alive. The forest around them seemed both witness and accomplice, shadows lingering, whispering secrets carried over decades. Every leaf, every branch, every broken twig bore witness to years of absence, concealment, and survival. The long hunt, the relentless pursuit, had finally arrived at a moment both climactic and fragile. Megan spoke softly, carefully, words deliberate yet emotionally charged. "I cannot explain everything. There are truths that remain, hidden threats that linger. But I am here. I am alive. And you have found me." Her eyes, deep and wary, reflected years of observation, fear, and intelligence. Harrow stepped closer, signaling calm and reassurance, yet aware that this moment was as much a psychological revelation as it was a rescue. The forest itself seemed to lean in, amplifying every heartbeat, every whisper, every exhalation of emotion. Emily reached forward, trembling. "We never stopped searching. We never gave up. All these years we knew somehow you were out there." Megan's lips quivered slightly. Her voice, barely above a whisper, carried sorrow and relief intertwined. "You were persistent. You were careful. That is why I can speak now, why I can emerge, even partially, from the shadows." The team remained poised, aware that any misstep could shatter the delicate balance between revelation, danger, and trust. Every breath in the forest felt magnified, every sound resonating with decades of hidden tension. The cabin, once a fortress of concealment, now revealed its carefully curated contents. Journals, letters, photographs, personal items, all artifacts of survival, observation, and intelligence, spoke volumes without words. Megan guided the team through subtle markers, sketches of hidden paths, coded symbols indicating safety zones, reminders of risks, and carefully documented encounters with strangers. Every item, every trace, was deliberate. The mystery had been both physical and psychological, a labyrinth constructed to protect, communicate, and test persistence. Harrow and Emily documented meticulously, photographing each artifact, noting every trace, recording words with care. They understood that while Megan's presence answered decades of questions, the case was not simply closed. It had evolved, transformed from a historical cold case into an emotionally charged, psychologically layered confrontation with survival, secrecy, and deliberate manipulation. Every shadow in the cabin, every movement in the surrounding forest, was part of a narrative that challenged perception, understanding, and courage. Megan gestured toward a stack of letters and photographs. The images captured moments from years past, parties, walks along forest trails, glimpses of strangers lurking in the background, small objects deliberately placed. Harrow realized these were more than memories. They were documentation, evidence of intelligence, awareness, and subtle guidance. The forest, the cabin, the hidden trails, all were part of an elaborate design to remain unseen yet traceable, controlled yet discoverable. The sophistication was breathtaking, almost surgical in its precision. The team began to piece together the timeline. Megan had disappeared in 1997, yet evidence indicated she had survived by navigating the forest with meticulous care, avoiding danger, leaving markers, and carefully choosing what to reveal and when. Each clue, the pendant, the key, the hollow, the cabin, was part of a coherent narrative, a trail designed to be followed only by those observant, patient, and persistent enough. It was both testament and test, a living cold case made tangible, yet guided by intelligence and discretion. Emily noticed subtle markings on the cabin walls, faint symbols scratched into wood. Megan explained softly, "These are not just signs. They are reminders, warnings, coordinates for safety. I have observed those who might seek me, those who might unknowingly follow, and I've left a path that balances trust and caution." Every word underscored the depth of her planning, the intelligence required to survive undetected for decades, and the psychological burden of constant vigilance. The forest had been both prison and protector, the cabin a nerve center of careful concealment. Harrow's mind raced through implications. The townspeople of Aspen, the friends who never gave up hope, and the investigators now faced a reality that was both inspiring and unsettling. Megan's survival was undeniable, yet her isolation, careful concealment, and deliberate manipulation of evidence revealed a complex interplay of fear, intelligence, and strategy. The cold case, long a source of speculation, rumor, and anguish, had transformed into an intimate encounter with human resilience, secrecy, and calculated survival. Hours passed with careful discussion, observation, and cautious engagement. Megan revealed fragments of encounters, threats, and surveillance without compromising her safety. Every disclosure added depth to understanding the elaborate network of concealment she had maintained. The pendant, the key, and the hollow now fit into a coherent narrative, markers of presence, guides for the persistent, warnings for the unwary. The forest itself seemed complicit, shaping events, concealing danger, and protecting life with silent, deliberate intelligence. As dawn broke fully, the team prepared to leave the immediate vicinity, ensuring that Megan remained safe and that evidence was documented without disruption. Harrow reflected on the transformation of the investigation, from a cold case mired in ambiguity to an emotionally charged confrontation with survival, secrecy, and revelation. The forest, the cabin, and Megan's carefully curated artifacts had converted years of mystery into tangible understanding, yet retained layers of ambiguity, complexity, and psychological depth. Emily lingered near the doorway, tears mingling with relief and awe. "You survived all these years," she whispered. Megan nodded, a shadow of a smile touching her lips. Survival required patience, observation, and concealment. And some truths are still too dangerous to reveal. The statement hung in the air, a haunting reminder that even revelation carried limits, and that the forest, the past, and those orchestrating events remained potent forces shaping perception and reality. The team retraced their path through the forest, documenting every step, noting subtle markers, and preserving artifacts for future investigation. Shadows clung to the undergrowth, mist swirled around roots and rocks, and the creek whispered alongside the trail, an ancient witness to decades of absence, concealment, and survival. Each step reinforced the surreal nature of discovery. The cold case was resolved in the sense of Megan's survival, yet it retained mystery, ambiguity, and the enduring tension between revelation and secrecy. As the forest opened to clearer terrain, Harrow and Emily paused to reflect. The town of Aspen, the friends, the investigators, none could yet grasp the full scope of events, yet the tangible evidence, The carefully documented trail and Megan's presence confirmed survival, intelligence, and deliberate concealment. The case's transformation from abstract cold case to immediate, psychologically layered confrontation with human resilience would reverberate through the community, leaving shock, awe, and lingering questions. Megan's voice, soft but resolute, carried across the clearing. I am alive. You have found me. But some things must remain unseen. Trust will guide what comes next. Her words struck a delicate balance, acknowledgement, revelation, and the maintenance of caution. Harrow understood immediately that the case's resolution was both public and private, confirmation of survival for the friends and investigators, yet continuing protection from threats that might still lurk in shadows or memory. The team departed carefully, the forest slowly returning to quietude. The cabin, the hollow, the trails all remained as they had been discovered, silent, deliberate, alive with evidence and implication. Megan's presence, survival, and carefully curated narrative left a lasting imprint on those who had pursued her for decades. The cold case had been cracked in the sense of discovery, yet it retained ambiguity, tension, and the haunting presence of a life lived in careful observation, concealment, and intelligence. By the end of Part 11, the story reached both closure and haunting resonance. The missing girl of 1997 was alive, her survival confirmed, yet the forest, the cabin, and her carefully curated concealment preserved mystery and tension. Friends, investigators, and the community would be shocked by the revelation, yet aware that some truths remained beyond disclosure, that survival required secrecy, and that the forest had been both protector and orchestrator of an elaborate, decades-long enigma. The cold case, finally cracked, left a lingering echo of resilience, intelligence, fear, and hope, a narrative that would haunt the community, the friends, and those who had pursued it for decades, a story of disappearance, survival, and revelation carried across years, shadows, and the watchful depths of the Colorado forest. It began on a cold October night in 1997, the wind slicing through aspen like a blade. Megan Holloway vanished without a trace. Her friends remembered the laughter that had filled the air earlier that evening, the echo of footsteps fading into the dark, the sudden silence that followed. The town erupted into panic, whispers spreading of abduction, foul play, or worse, Megan simply gone. Investigators scoured streets, alleys, forests. Nothing. Only silence and shadows, and a growing sense of dread that clung to the mountains like fog. Detective Harrow arrived days later, a man with eyes sharpened by experience, hands hardened by paperwork and confrontation. The scene told little. Her bedroom untouched, meals half-eaten, a diary open but pages empty. Clues existed in fragments, a broken pendant, a single boot print in the mud near the creek, faintly sketched symbols in her notebooks. Friends whispered of odd sightings in the forest, figures glimpsed at dusk, lights that flickered unnaturally. The town waited, hopes dwindled, and months turned to years. Cold case. Then, decades later, a photograph surfaced, old and grainy. Megan, smiling, unaware of the observer behind the camera. Footprints appeared anew in the creek, the pendant discovered again, the key unearthed beneath moss. Detective Harrow realized the past was shifting beneath his feet. Megan had not disappeared into thin air. She had vanished with intelligence, precision, and survival instincts that eluded all previous attempts at understanding. Every clue was deliberate, a breadcrumb, a message hidden in plain sight for those patient enough to follow. Dawn barely penetrated the dense forest as Harrow crouched near the creek, flashlight illuminating fragments of evidence scattered across the damp ground. A scarf she might have worn, fragments of a notebook, a pendant with intricate engraving, all tangible, yet ephemeral, like smoke dancing in shafts of light. Emily and the others followed silently, each step a negotiation with fear and curiosity, nerves stretched taut. Roots snagged ankles, leaves crunched softly, shadows shifted, alive. The line between reality and imagination blurred with every moment. Harrow examined the pendant, comparing it with sketches in Megan's notebook. The symbols were consistent, deliberate, communicating, leaving a trail. But why now, after decades? Was Megan orchestrating this herself, or was someone else manipulating, testing the persistence of those who sought her? Each theory carried equal horror and fascination. Then came a sound, a branch snapping sharply. Footsteps deliberate, moving parallel to the creek. Emily's hand trembled. Harrow signaled silence. The forest had become a stage for something unseen, testing every heartbeat. Minutes stretched as shadows flickered. Then, a scrap of paper under a rock. "I am closer than you think." The words were both warning and revelation, confirming awareness, presence, calculation. Footprints led to a hidden chamber beneath the creek bank, partially buried hatch, dirt and moss concealing entrance to narrow passage dimly lit by filtered daylight. Inside, signs of habitation, blankets, personal items, remnants of daily life. Someone had survived, intentionally hidden, observing movements, orchestrating breadcrumbs for discovery. Footsteps echoed faintly from deeper inside, shadows flitting between beams of flashlight. The team froze, each sense stretched. Inside the hollow, journals, letters, sketches matched recovered notebooks. Phrases: "They are watching me. I must be careful," hints at observation, manipulation, intelligence, deliberate concealment. The forest became a labyrinth of psychological tension, each clue layered with fear, anticipation, and revelation. Megan had been both present and absent, alive yet invisible, orchestrating her survival with precision. The narrow passage led to a secondary clearing. Evidence of habitation grew: fire pit, footprints, personal items arranged deliberately. A torn page from a notebook hinted at landmarks previously overlooked. Rocks, carved trees, creek bends marked paths. The detective recognized a pattern: deliberate, guiding, testing patience and persistence. Then came the key breakthrough: a partially buried hatch, the key fitting perfectly. Mechanism clicked. Passage opened to reveal chamber of survival, blankets, journals, photographs. Artifacts chronicled years of concealment, careful observation, intelligent maneuvering. Movement outside, the ridge, shadows flitting, indicated awareness of the team's approach. Footprints, broken branches, arranged rocks, and cryptic notes formed a network. Megan had survived in isolation, leaving deliberate signs, communicating without exposure, guiding those determined to follow. The narrative became immediate, tense, alive. The team realized the forest itself had been a collaborator, a sentinel, amplifying tension while revealing carefully controlled fragments. Night deepened. The cabin emerged through fog and shadows near the creek bend, dark windows reflecting moonlight, signs of recent habitation unmistakable, footprints, displaced blankets, faint smoke. Harrow signaled extreme caution. Every step could provoke, every flash of light risked disturbance. A faint whistle pierced the night, soft, deliberate, eerily familiar. Emily recognized it instantly. Harrow's pulse raced. The orchestrator, or perhaps Megan herself, was aware, intelligent, alert. Then movement, quick, precise, deliberate. A figure appeared, cautious, partially concealed. Harrow whispered, "Megan." Recognition, hesitation, acknowledgement flickered in dim light. The team advanced slowly, mindful, observing. Shadowed posture, small movements, cautious calculation, the signs were unmistakable. Megan Holloway, altered by time, wary yet present, alive. The forest seemed to hold its breath as past, present, and decades of search converged into a tense, electric confrontation. A single whistle echoed again. Megan paused, nodding faintly. Harrow spoke gently, "We're not here to hurt you. We're here to help." A hesitant step forward, partial illumination, eyes wide, alert, reflecting years of vigilance, fear, intelligence. Emily whispered, "We never stopped searching all this time." Megan's response was measured, soft. "You were persistent. That is why I can speak now, why I can emerge from the shadows." Each word weighed with decades of concealment, careful orchestration, and survival. Inside the cabin, artifacts spoke volumes: journals, letters, photographs, items curated meticulously. Maps of hidden trails, coded symbols, warnings, reminders, all signs of deliberate communication, a guide only for the observant and persistent. Harrow realized the sophistication was breathtaking, a living cold case, orchestrated over decades, blending intelligence, survival, and psychological depth. The forest, cabin, and markers had been simultaneously prison, protector, and signal. Dawn bled through the canopy. Megan revealed selective truths: use of hidden paths, shelters, encounters with strangers, manipulation of evidence, survival strategies. The pendant, key, hollow, cabin all formed a coherent narrative: deliberate markers, subtle communication, careful observation. Emily documented meticulously, tears of awe and relief mingling with adrenaline. The cold case was no longer abstract. It had flesh, intelligence, awareness, and voice. Survival and concealment merged with revelation in a tense, emotionally charged tableau. Finally, Megan's words carried across the clearing: "I am alive. You have found me. But some things must remain unseen. Trust will guide what comes next." Harrow and Emily understood. Closure existed only partially. Confirmation of survival, rescue, and revelation intertwined with lingering ambiguity and risk. The forest remained vigilant, shadows patient, secrets layered. The cold case, decades in waiting, had been cracked, yet retained mystery, complexity, and psychological depth. The team departed, retracing steps through the forest, documenting every mark, trail, and artifact. Shadows clung to trees, fog swirled around roots, creek whispered, a silent witness to survival, concealment, and revelation. Megan's carefully curated narrative left lasting impact: shock, awe, and lingering questions for friends, investigators, and the town. Aspen would be shaken by revelation, yet some truths would remain beyond disclosure, some dangers unspoken, some shadows eternal. The forest settled into quietude, artifacts untouched, trails preserved, cabins still holding the secrets of survival. The cold case had transformed, from missing girl to living testament of intelligence, patience, resilience, and human complexity. The story echoed through decades, shadows, and community, disappearance, survival, concealment, and revelation intertwining into an unforgettable narrative of human endurance and the relentless pursuit of truth. And as the first rays of sunlight pierced the Colorado sky, the forest exhaled, indifferent yet witness to the endurance of Megan Holloway, the perseverance of those who sought her, and the chilling, awe-inspiring truth that some mysteries, while solved, leave an echo that will linger forever.